Text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. And also, I mentioned to you all that I created something new to go with money in the morning, and I call it Money in a Minute. And it's basically bite-sized financial lessons that you can get delivered directly to your cell phone every single morning, so that you can learn specific topics like stock options or whatever it is that you want to learn. And so the first Money in a Minute sequence is in the area of stock options. So if you'd like to sign up. The lifetime access fee is $2.99, but those of you that are in class can actually get lifetime access for 35% off. So I want to say it's maybe $230 or something, and you can share it with your whole family if you want to. So feel free to sign up. If you want to sign up, text the word Miami, Miami. That's money in a minute. So text the word Miami to the number 87948, and you can get access to Money in a Minute. And so what will happen is within 24 hours, you will start getting messages delivered to you that have 90-second videos that will give you some new concept within the area of stock options that you can watch each day that will make you stronger in that area. So feel free to take a look at that. All right. So anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. Let me know how your stock portfolios are doing. I hope that you're making an insane amount of money. I want you to be filthy, filthy rich. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of break down what I'm seeing in the market, what I'm doing with my own portfolio, and also as we go along, I'll let you know about a stock that I plan to purchase that I'm just going to add to my portfolio that you can consider or take a look at if that is of interest to you. All right, so let's see who's in here. Give me a second here. I got all these screens up. I see you, Angela McKinney. Good morning, ma'am. And let's see who else is in here. I see. Let me hit the chat button so I can see everybody that's here. Elaine Johnson. Let's see. James Keller. Good morning, James from Philadelphia. Natasha, I love your beginners training to investing. It was so helpful, and I'm sharing it with family and friends. Yeah, absolutely. We did. I don't know if you're referring to the training we did on how to invest in the stock market. But everything, is each one teach one in the Black Business School. We do our financial education like soul food. This is like financial soul food, except it's healthy and won't kill you or give you diabetes or nothing. And basically, we want you to share it just like you would food, because knowledge is food. There's nothing better I can do for a loved one, I think, than to help them to become financially secure to avoid all of the problems that we run into when we have to deal with financial stress, financial anxiety. I know people who've been killed for $50, so to me, if somebody needs killing, you shouldn't kill them for $50. Make it at least 5,000 or something. I mean, I'm playing. Don't kill nobody. Don't go kill nobody. But seriously though, when you when you talk about economic desperation, you can see scenarios where people do desperate things because of money. And I just don't think that that should be our story. I don't think that has to be our narrative, right? Long term or short term. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop in and look at some of your questions. And if you have a question, I only ask that you kind of keep it kind of tight and condensed so I can make sure I answer as many questions as possible. And then also in a second, I'll talk about the stock that I like for today that you could take a look at if you'd like. And also, let's see here, what else? Oh, and also if you're in the Black Stock Market program, you can log in, and I have a new set of stocks that I picked this week under what Dr. Boyce is buying. So for those of you that are in Prime or in the Black Stock Market program, the Prime members have free access as well. You can look it up there as well. All right. So in those who want to join Prime, where we generate income from selling stock options, feel free to go to drboyceprime.com. That's drboyceprime.com. All right. So let's see. I'm hopping in. I'm going to start answering questions here. All right. So the first question I see. Oh, there is no first question. Okay. So put your question in the Q&A section. That way I can see it. I thought I saw the chat and I thought those were a bunch of questions. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll start in the chat and then I'll work to the Q&A. So if you have a question, put your question inside the Q&A section so I'll see it. Natasha White says the May and June training for introduction to the stock market. Oh yeah. That was something we did, and it seemed to go really well. You guys really liked it. I always like to make sure that I'm giving you what you need, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed it a lot. And also we had our stock options summit in California, and I think at some point we'll just do a stock options summit online. So the stock options summit, we call that the SOS. Well, maybe the stock options summit online can be called the SOSO, the SOSO, right? So we're going to do it, not a SUSU, we're going to do a SOSO, where we're going to do some sort of stock options summit online where we'll spend the whole weekend going from A to Z with stock options. I'll talk you through it. I'll pull out the slides. We'll take a field trip. I'll break it down for you. And you know me, I always have the analogies and stuff because I think money is connected to life, and I want your regular life to help you understand your economics because they kind of go hand in hand. I'm not teaching you anything new. I'm only igniting the things that you've always known your whole entire life. All right, so let's see here. Okay, so the first question is, King May, Chipotle is down. What do you think? Chipotle is interesting because I saw where Chipotle was getting beat up online a little bit, with all these, I guess Keith Lee, the food critic, was talking about how little food they give, and apparently this guy's got a lot of weight in the food. It's crazy, and so after that happened, Chipotle ended up kind of getting blasted online pretty bad, where people were making fun of the fact that the food portions were not big enough. But I can tell you, I have made tens of thousands of dollars from Chipotle stock. I invested. I did a stock option strategy with Chipotle, where I don't like to take the risk of buying a lot of stock options. So what I did was I did a what it's called a stock replication strategy. So I did a long term, deep in the money call spread. That's what it's called in stock options on Chipotle, where basically it was set up where I had 2 years for Chipotle stock to recover, and it recovered in about 2 months. It didn't take 2 years, it took 2 months. So basically I just had this position, and it did really well. I did the same thing with Amazon. It worked really well. And Chipotle is just a strong company. And my belief is that when you invest in strong companies that have strong earnings and strong earnings growth, and you hold those companies for 5 years or more, it's very, very hard to lose. It's very, very hard to lose because these companies are going to survive and do well. Chipotle is one of those companies. So I think Chipotle is a solid investment. Although you can't predict things, I don't think this stink that's kind of on them now is going to last. They're just really good at adapting. They have great management. So do I think that it's a good price to buy? The fair price is 40, according to Robinhood, says Natasha. I don't think that's, let me see, what's the price of Chipotle? Um, Chipotle, Chipotle stock is trading at 61. Um, a lot of analysts really like it. I didn't see anything that says the fair price is $40. I don't think it's $40. I think it's higher than that, but I see that here. I see the research report says, now this is just Morningstar. So one thing you got to remember about analyst reports is that analysts in many cases are just wrong. Nobody really, just so in case you want to know, no one really knows the fair price of a stock. Nobody knows. I sat in the lab with the best financial scientists on the planet, with the best equipment, the best mathematical models at the highest levels, and seen people sit around and try to come up with the fair value of a stock. Nobody really knows exactly what the fair value is, and no one knows what the market is going to pick as the fair value of that stock. For example, Donald Trump's company is pretty worthless. That stock is worth about $1, maybe, if you want to be nice. It's trading right now, probably in the 40s or something. Why? Nobody knows exactly. Can you really explain why human beings, do what they do? Humans be human and humans be human in, right? So basically, we just the market just picks the value that it wants. What tends to happen though is that when the economy starts to crash or the market starts to collapse, you see stocks tend to gravitate back to their fair market value and the cream rises to the top. That's when you begin to scrutinize. The market becomes much more financially conscious. It's almost like at a party when everybody's drinking and getting high. Nobody's really paying attention to what's going on. Everybody's doing whatever they want to do. But after the party, when the police have arrived and the drugs have worn off, everyone's suddenly extremely aware of every little detail of their lives. And that's what a market crash, that's the visual I get when I see a stock market crash. The market becomes sober. So right now, with the market doing so well, the market's a little financially drunk. There are some stocks in there that are a little overpriced. The AI stocks are at the biggest risk of overpricing, although nobody knows for sure because everyone knows that AI is going to be this big, gigantic economic boom. That's no secret. That's no secret. Everyone knows AI is going to be a massive. What you don't know is you don't know who the winners are going to be in this new industry. You also don't know exactly how massive it's going to be. You may think it's going to be mega massive, and it may not be mega massive. It may just be massive without the mega, right? Which would be a disappointment, which could lead to a correction, which feels like a crash. So effectively, you just don't know. So a lot of market growth has been collapsed into these magnificent seven stocks, the big tech stocks, the Nvidias, Apples, Microsoft, stuff like that. And there is a school of thought that says that it's at some point it's going to have to spread out. But then again, there's another school of thought that says maybe they really have the juice like that. Maybe their juice is that strong that they're going to just maintain this sort of market power for a long time. I doubt it. So to basically summarize with Chipotle. I'm looking at the report here on it. I'm a big fan of Chipotle. I'm sorry. I think the company has great management. They're run very well. The stock, it looks like it's gone down 5% this week, 1.3% this month. But year to date, it's up 34, 35%. In my view, if I wanted to approach a Chipotle, I would look at it as, okay, I like this company. That means I'm going to go ahead and marry this stock. And marrying the stock might mean I'm going to dollar cost average my way into this stock, which means that I'm going to consistently buy a certain number of shares every month or what every week and just keep doing that for the next 5 or 10 years. That means when the stock goes down, I'm buying a little bit more. When it goes up, I'm getting a little bit less. But either way, I'm in bed with Chipotle financially. That's where I'm going to use as my store of value. And remember, when you buy a stock, there are two things you want that stock to do. One is grow, right? You want your money to grow, but growth is not really the primary goal all the time. The primary goal is protecting your money, protecting your wealth, not collapsing. Just like in football, and when I was asking you all, like, what's the most important job of the quarterback? It's not to throw touchdowns. It's not to run the ball. It's not to throw passes or anything. The job of the quarterback, the first and most important job is to protect the ball. If you don't protect the ball, then nothing else matters. So Chipotle isn't just a great company, in my opinion, because of its growth potential. Chipotle is also a great company because I believe that the stock is not going to collapse on you as badly as some other stocks will if the market goes south. If the market goes south, a company like AMC is going to kill you. If the market collapses, a company like DJT, Donald Trump's media company, oh, that's going to make you cry. It's going to break your heart. But Chipotle, it's going to be pretty solid, I think. I mean, it could drop. Don't get me wrong. Any stock can drop, but it's probably going to make a comeback, and it's going to maintain a lot of fundamental value. Like there's a lot of meat on them bones, if you know what I mean. All right, so anyway, enough of that. Let's see here. Is Chipotle a good stock to do cover calls on? I don't think it is, Jonathan. I think there are better companies out there for sure. Errol, do you expect a market correction at some point this year? I really thought that there would be, Errol, and I think that there could be because the market's very fragile. But you know what? They did a study where they basically found that whenever the market does this well the first half of the year, it almost always does well the second half of the year. So the odds are saying that the rest of this year is going to be strong too. But that doesn't mean it won't collapse in 2025 or something. But if it does collapse, here's the problem with waiting for the decline before you make a move. When you sit on the sidelines waiting, what happens is that you're missing all of the upward trajectory that occurs while you're waiting, right? So if let's say that I want to buy a stock and the price is $20, and I say, oh, I think it's gonna go down. I'm gonna wait till it gets cheaper. So then it goes to 22, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna keep waiting. 24, you keep waiting. 26, you keep waiting. 28, 29, 30, 34, 35, 40. Right, it hits 40, and you're like, I'm gonna keep on waiting because I want this stock to go down, and then it collapses, right? Then you have like the worst day ever, right? Then the stock drops from 40 to 33, right? That's a massive drop, but 33 is still higher than the 20 you could have bought it at 2 years ago. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, you had a little bit of a win if you're not financially conscious. You have a recency effect. You think, oh, well, it went down from 40 to 33, so this stock is cheap now. But what you've forgotten is that stock also went from 20 up to 40, then down to 33. So you missed that whole climb. It's like relationships. You know what people, they have a breakup and they say, I'm never gonna date again. I'm gonna stay in my house and never date a man, date a woman, whatever, for the rest of my life. And then someone comes along and says, well, it's better to have loved and to have lost than it is to have never than to never have loved at all. I said it wrong, but you get the point, right? Well, what does that mean to me? What that means to me is like it's better to have invested in the stock and lost a little money than to have not invested at all or to have waited until the crash. If you wait until the crash, yeah, you're sure you're getting the stock cheaper, and you miss the overpricing of it, but you also miss the climb. You missed that whole climb from 20 all the way up to 40. Now maybe the last seven was garbage. The last seven kind of got taken away, but you had the previous 20 points of that stock that you missed out on. People do that in real estate all the time. I never understand that where people say, I'm not going to buy a house now because I'm going to wait for housing prices to go down. I need you to go look at any major area in the United States and look at the real estate market. And I want you to show me one decade where the real estate in that major city was cheaper 10 years later than it was 10 years before. You're not going to be able to find it. Real estate always goes up in price. And this is where, when we do our financial consciousness exercises in the morning, this is the kind of stuff I want you to be able to think about, because money consciousness is a very important part of money acquisition. If you can't acquire something and control something if you're not conscious of how it works. So part of financial consciousness is just knowing that, knowing little things like I remember seeing this news story from 1983 where they had some serious experts that were talking about how overpriced the San Diego housing market was. And they said, according to recent studies, the average home in San Diego costs $88,000. And they're like, oh my God, that's so insane. Who would ever buy a house for $88,000? And that looks ridiculous to us now. It's like a joke now. But some of your parents went and bought that house for 88,000 in 1983, and that house is worth $1 million today, or half a million. So don't get I wouldn't get caught up in trying to time things. If you want to invest in Chipotle, then I would consider investing in Chipotle. This is not investing advice, but if you overthink it, you're gonna mess it up. That's a part of consciousness too, is knowing when to kind of tone it down and not talk yourself out of doing what you need to do. All right. Okay. Let's see here. Natasha says also Ian Dunlap from Earn Your Leisure said that the price to get an Nvidia is 107 or 112. Your thoughts? You know what? I never met Ian, but I like him. And I'll tell you that the research says that trying to predict an individual stock price is kind of a fruitless exercise. It's widely done by market analysts all the time, and the reason it's done is because people believe it's possible. It intuitively seems like you should be able to just, someone says, "Oh, the stock price is too high," or "It's going to go down," or "It's going to go up." It's not so easy to do. It's not. In fact, there's a whole theory around this. They won a Nobel Prize on this, called the random walk hypothesis. And the random walk hypothesis basically says that stock prices move in a random walk, like a drunk person. Like a drunk person, his walk is random. You don't know if he's going to go left or right, forward or backward. You can't really predict individual stock prices like that. And also another thing that I can tell you as a person who's just kind of gone through all the math on how a stock price is formulated, nobody really knows what the true value of Nvidia is. That's the enigma of Nvidia. The price right now of Nvidia is 122.09. That price could either be incredibly high or it can be incredibly low. You will not know probably for another 5 or 10 years. Just like right now in 2024, we could look at prices in 2016. We could look at Apple and we could say, holy crap, in 2016, what was Apple trading in 2016? Let me see here. Apple, let's look up the history of Apple stock. Let's go on a little digital field trip here. Okay, Apple stock. Okay, Apple stock price. Okay, so let's pull this up. The price of Apple right now is $219. Okay, and I've owned a substantial stake in Apple. I think I sold some of my Apple, not because I hate it, but because I wanted to do something else with my money. But anyway, so you look here and you see that Apple stock is trading for 219. Now, if I look a year to date, it's gone up by 18%. The last year has gone up 14%. Last 5 years, it's gone up 329%. So the last 5 years, so that means if you bought Apple in 2019, you could have got it for $50. And now it's trading for $219. That would have been a beautiful investment for you. If you bought Apple in, say, 2016, you could have bought it for $29.41. Now, here's what I want you to understand from a financial consciousness standpoint. Let's move up right here. Let's look at September 21st, 2018. Apple stock was trading for $54.42. Give me a yes if you can see this chart. Let me know if you can see this on the screen. Can y'all see my screen? Give me a quick yes so I can just know that this is visible for you guys. Hold on, give me a second. I'm trying to look at the chat just a minute. Okay, all right. Thank you, Claudia and Angela. I see you in there. All right. So here, if you go right here to 2018, September 21st, that price is $54.42. Now, I want you to imagine yourself living in the year 2018. It wasn't that long ago. For a lot of you, it felt like yesterday. At this point, I guarantee you that there were analysts that were looking at the price right here because you hit what they call a local maximum. That's what they call it in mathematics. It's a local maximum that is of limited perspective. I bet you there were people who said, okay, Apple's overpriced. You need to sell Apple because Apple is too high. Now, and why would they think that? Well, I don't know. Let's see. The stock is at $55 or $55 a share. And if you went back, say 5 years, it was trading at 15. So they're thinking, oh my God, this stock went from 15 to 55. Holy crap, it's overpriced. It's time to sell. So let's say, for example, that they, did sell. So here you notice that the stock goes from 54, and then in 2019, it drops down to 38. So that makes you feel redeemed. Like, haha, I'm so smart. Look at me. I sold my Apple stock before the price went down. I'm a genius. I'm a financial genius, right? This is these are the financial geniuses that you find all over the internet. There were financial geniuses all over the internet who said, "Ha ha! I told you. I told you that you should have sold your Apple. Look at it now. Look at Apple now." Well, I call some of these geniuses don't know what they're talking about, to be honest with you. Because if you have the right perspective, you understand that the first step to true knowledge, in my opinion, is to know how little you actually know. The the first step to knowing anything, in my opinion, is that you must acknowledge that there are some things that you just don't know. You don't really know shit. You think you know everything, but you don't know shit. So I'm a professor. I have more education than 99% of all people, but I never walk into a room assuming I'm the smartest guy in the room, because the first thing I'm thinking about is how little I know, not how much I know. So here's the deal. You don't know nothing because you're looking at January 11, 2019, like that's the be all end all. That's not the end of the story for Apple stock. In 2019, they might have thought it was an important part of the story, but no, it's a microcosm of a much bigger story. And the best was yet to come. If you look at Apple since January 11, 2019, look at what this stock has done. Look at this stock. This sucker's up to 219. And every time it hit a local maximum, and people thought that this was it, the stock has no more left to give, it kept going up. There are 1,000 different companies I can show you that have the same sort of history. So what I want to really encourage you to do is stop trying to know the unknowable. Stop trying to know things that you can't know. You can't know what the future holds. Let me just tell you, the biggest factors that impact stock prices are things like information, time, risk, various factors like that. And in fact, when I say the words information, time, and risk, you don't understand that my brain goes 30 years deep in each of those areas. I don't when you say time, I literally go into a trans like meditative state, because I've thought about time from so many different angles and perspectives, mathematically, theoretically, philosophically, all that, right? Same thing is true with information. Information is one of the most important variables in the financial universe. That's why information is so closely guarded in financial markets. That's why Martha Stewart is doing TV shows with Snoop Dogg, because she went to prison because she had access to information she was not supposed to have. Because information is money, right? This is why, as I believe, as Black people, we should have as much information as possible. Same thing is true with risk. Risk is interesting because with risk is a very complex idea. You know what it means to be in a risky situation. A lot of you know that. My wife talks about in the 90s when she went to a Tupac party in Vegas, and she walked in and she saw girls with mini skirts and being dragged into the VIP room and all that. And she said, I got to get out of here because I'm feeling a little risky in here. This does not feel like a safe space for me. So she wouldn't beg for her money back. It was her last $20, and the bouncer gave her $20 back, even though they have a no refund policy. So she felt the risk in the room, right? So we know what risk is. But risk is very, very deep. Risk is like the boogeyman, where you have the things that you know, the things you don't know, and then you have the things you don't know you don't know. So you have the risk that you're aware of, but then there's a universe of risks that you can't see because it has not presented itself yet. These are called black swan events. So the risk that I see in the stock market right now are the numerous infinite number of black swan events that might present themselves and suddenly become the thing to think about when it comes to stock prices. Like, for example, how many of you really thought that 2020 and 2021 would be dominated by a pandemic that would pretty much shut everything down economically? None of us thought about that in 2019, 2018. That wasn't even in our consciousness, but that was a risk factor that was always there. And just because you don't see it there doesn't mean it's not there. But also, here's the other crazy thing about risk is that just because you see it doesn't mean it's actually there. Like we watch the local news. My mother-in-law watches the local news and she thinks that everybody's getting killed. Why? Well, because she turned on the TV and there's always somebody dying. So she thinks that she walks on the porch, something bad could happen to her. But we know that that's not the case. But here's the thing. Even risk that isn't real can have a real impact on asset prices. So even risk that is completely imaginary that affects, that's why they measure things like consumer confidence and the VIX, which is the fear index, fear gauge, stuff like that. They measure these things because they know that sometimes if you imagine something to be real, it becomes real. Right, which is crazy, right? So that spills the financial stuff into the areas of psychology and philosophy and therapy and everything else, right? So long story short, let's circle back. Let's summarize this. Stop trying to predict things you can't predict. If you like Chipotle as a company, why not add it to your portfolio? It's better than spending your money at the mall. That's how I kind of look at it. Even if the stock does not do great, you made the best decision you could based on the information you had at the time. And also, if you do things like dollar cost averaging, like if a person has simply invested, let's say $50 a week in Nike stock since 2016, you would be filthy freaking rich. That's it. Very basic. So market timing and predicting, it's more like a sport. It's not really something that has to be done for you to actually build wealth. So I hope that drawn out discussion was beneficial to you. And actually, let me give you guys the stock that I'm going to buy right now in case you're interested. It's actually a renewable energy stock called Next Era Energy, and the ticker symbol is NEE. Nancy, Erica, and it's priced at $70 per share. And Next Era Energy engages in the provision of renewable energy, operates through the following segments: FPL and NEER. The FPL segment involves the generation, transmission, distribution, and sale of electric energy in Florida. The NEER segment produces electricity from clean and renewable sources, including wind and solar. The company was founded in 1925 and headquartered in Juno Beach, Florida. And this is a stock that I'm going to purchase. So feel free to take a look at it. Again, not investment advice. The bulls are saying that this company's management, the management's long runway of capital investment opportunities support our expectation that annual earnings growth can reach the top half of management's 6 to 8% target through 2027. The company has benefited from renewable energy federal tax credits, but state renewable portfolio standards, corporate purchases, and attractive economics are also supporting renewable energy investments. So NEE is, according to bulls, they believe that this is a good investment. It's not the one that's gonna, the one stock ain't gonna get you out the hood. So make sure you're diversified. Diversification is important, but that's a stock I'm going to look at. Not investing advice, just me sharing what I'm looking at. Okay. All right. So let me get to your questions again. All right. Claudia, Dr. Boyce, I'm in London, UK, signed up for Robinhood and Trading 212, trying to purchase shares in VOO. However, Robinhood does not support, and Trading 212 has S&P 500 ETFs. Is this the same as VOO? Yeah. There we go, Claudia. And shout out to Black London. I every time I think about Black people in London, I smile because y'all gave me so much love when I was there, and I haven't been there since 2017 to do an event. Well, actually, when I was there with my wife, I did do like kind of a pop-up event, and a lot of you came out. I appreciate that very much, and I just love y'all. I love London. I think Black Americans, we can learn a lot from what's happening in Black London because I saw a lot more stable families. I saw a lot of Black professionals that just really are doing amazing things, and I really think that you should be proud of that. So anyway, but yes, if you're investing in an S&P 500 index fund, that's very close to VOO. The $5 a day plan, which is, again, that's free. Blackwealthmasterplan.com is where you can go. Blackwealthmasterplan.com. It's very, very simple. And literally, if a person simply bought SPY or VOO and did that consistently and didn't sell the asset, your family will be rich in less than a generation. And also remember this, that I mentioned to you all, I used to talk about investing for your children, and that message resonated with a lot of you. I probably said it to 50 million people by now or something, but really I realized that the message could be refined in a way that allows us to be a little more selfish. So even if you're a parent who hates your kids, then this can work for you, because remember, wealth is it's an asset. It's a thing. It's this thing that can be used to achieve certain goals and to meet certain needs, similar to like a car. And so in our household right now, our biggest dilemma is we have two cars, but we got four grown-ups in the house, or two kids who think they're grown, and then me and my wife, we really are grown-ups. And all four grown-ups want to use the two cars. Well, you know what? We share cars. When one of us isn't using the car, the other one is. And wealth is the same way. When you're investing for your children, you're really not just investing for them, you're investing for yourself. But I sat with a couple yesterday. We did a consultation, and it was a young couple. The father was 30. Well, not the father. They don't have kids yet, but the man was 33. His wife was 29. And I just, had so much fun talking to them about, the next 20 years, because I was 33 20 years ago, and I was just sharing everything I could share with him about that. And I said, you're gonna have kids, right? And they said, yeah. I said, okay. So yeah, so when you're investing now, you're investing for your kids, and time is your greatest asset. So the sooner you get started, the sooner you can build that wealth. If you give me enough time, I can make anybody into a millionaire. It's very easy to make anyone into a millionaire if they have time and consistency. Just like it's no different. It literally mathematically is no different from walking from one side of the city to the other. If you have enough time, it doesn't even matter if you're walking really slow. If you give yourself enough time, there is a certain amount of time that if you keep walking and you walk consistently in the right direction, you will have an accumulation where will have covered any distance that you can imagine. So you give me any distance, any rate of progress, and even the slowest walker on the planet, you give me enough time, I can get them to any destination. So think of wealth as a destination. If you think of wealth as, I don't know, I want to have $1 million in the bank, that's your destination. Well, if you give yourself enough time and you're very consistent in the accumulation process, then you will eventually reach that $1 million mark. So don't let anybody make you think that wealth is elusive, or that wealth only comes to the rich or whatever. They got rich because somebody made a plan and somebody executed the plan. Somebody got to the destination. And then once you accumulate that wealth, you're able to give that to the kids after you finish using it. So I told them, I said, look, this is your money. You're making the investments for you, but then your children are a part of you. So whatever benefits you is going to benefit them. On the negative side, whatever harms you is going to harm them. If you're not healed and fixed and you're doing terrible things to yourself, then chances are you're going to be doing terrible things to your children. If you're making bad choices, then those bad choices will curse your children. So make the good choices, and then you can bless the kids, and they can have this wonderful life, and then their kids will have a wonderful life. And that's how wealth kind of gets created. Another reason that people don't build wealth tends to be either they don't believe they can do it, because everyone tell the propaganda is that it's impossible unless you were born rich. They don't, or maybe that no one ever incorporates or instills either the discipline or the requirement that they build wealth. So, for example, it's very easy to build wealth. It would be really easy for me to build wealth for anybody in here if I was able to force you to do what I told you to do, right? Not that I would want to do that. I don't want to be a dictator, but if I had that power, and to use it in a good way, I would force you. I would say, no, we're going to take 10% of your check and we're going to put this in the stock or your stock portfolio every week, whether you like it or not. And then you're going to build wealth from that. And that's actually what's already happening to you. You already have bills you're forced to pay. If you don't pay your cell phone bill, they cut your phone off. You don't pay your car note, they come and take your car. If you don't pay your rent, then you have no place to live. So you already have forced savings in your life. The only difference, unfortunately, is that forced accumulation is going to the benefit of other people. It's not going to your benefit. But because when it comes to your benefit and your wealth, it's like optional. It's like, yeah, save if you want to, do what you want to do. And that's, I think, very harmful, because then what happens is that there's a lot of financial security and financial anxiety and economic stress that emerges, because sometimes it's hard to do stuff if nobody makes us do it. It was really hard for me to lose weight before my wife was really kind of nudging me every day and saying, "Hey, boys, let's get up and go run. Come on, boys, let's go run." Before when I made the decision, I never did it, and that's why I kept getting fat. All right, so let me keep reading here. How can I give my 14-year-old grandson Chipotle stock? Zakia, I would buy it for myself, and then maybe you can tell your son that you're getting it for him, or and then when he gets old enough, let him get an investment account, and maybe you can buy him some shares through the account. I think that's the easiest approach. I mean, you can gift people stock and actually buy the stock certificate. I got to find a website. There used to be a website, I think it was called Gift to Stock or something, but I think it went out of business. But you could actually buy a stock certificate and have that given to somebody in your family. And if you want to do that, and there's nothing wrong with that, it's good maybe for illustrative purposes or to symbolic effect, things like that. But really, if your goal is just to make sure he has the benefit of owning the stock, I would just buy it for yourself and then just let him know I'm putting something aside that's going to be for you. But I would not I don't believe in giving kids a whole bunch of money. I think we've talked about that. I think the kids, unfortunately, they don't have the economic consciousness or the maturity nor the appreciation for how hard you had to work for that money. And if you ever want your money to disappear, just give it all to a kid. Um, do you have other energy ETFs like URA? Yes, I do, not Natika. I have URA, uranium. It's a uranium stock. Uranium is supposed to be in short supply. Most estimates, most experts predict that uranium is going to be a high demand asset in the near future. Sherelle, what do you think about the latest news regarding Maxion Technologies? I don't know anything about Maxion. Um, Maxion, Maxeon. I don't know the company. I haven't followed um the news, but let me see. Okay, so Maxion Solar. Oof, Lord Jesus. Ooh, Lord. Oh my goodness. Oh, oh Lord. Oh, oof. Oh, oh. I don't like what I'm seeing with this company. Maybe this could be kind of a long shot bet, like betting on that horse that has 80 to 1 odds or something and it may hit, but there's nothing about this company that tells me this is a healthy company. The stock has dropped in the last 5 years, the stock has dropped 99.44% in the last year. In fact, the last year it's dropped 99%, whatever that is. And I can see they're losing money hand over fist. So they're probably struggling for cash. I know that they're suffering major net losses. There's no indication recently that things are getting better for the company. So this company is probably in danger of bankruptcy. And so if you want it, and then they're based in Singapore and so when you talk about foreign companies that are struggling financially, that's very risky. But then again, the stock's 18 cents. So if you're in a gambling mood, maybe you buy a few shares and just maybe if it goes from 17 cents to actually while I was talking, it went from 18 cents to 17 cents. That's how bad this stock is falling, it looks like. So maybe it goes up to $1 or something and you make a bunch of money, but I wouldn't bet my retirement on that. I wouldn't put a substantial part of my portfolio in it. I would do something stupid like for fun, like maybe buy like 100 shares, which would cost like $17 or $18. I mean, it's better than going to Applebee's or something, right? Because you never know. Maybe the stock will go up. So let's see. Let's do it together. I'm gonna buy 200 shares of Maxion Technologies. It's gonna cost me $35.88. So let's see how the investment goes. So if you guys want to ask me in class one day, how did your Maxion investment go? I can tell you. Now I am a shareholder. I now officially own a percentage of Maxion Technologies, but I did not buy that stock because I think it's a great company. I just bought it just for fun because sometimes even bad companies have stock price increases, or maybe they get a buyer, or maybe somebody comes along and gives them the funding they need to survive. That can move the stock price up. But this one's on life support for sure. All right, so let's see here. Sean, can you take a look at Gush for me? I've had three and a half years. It's made me a lot of money. Would you call this stock? The premium looks good. Also feels one to be married to, even if I'm not making contracts. Okay, Gush. Let's look at Gush here. Okay. That's the Direxion Daily S&P Oil and Gas. Okay, so it looks like it's okay, it provides 2x daily exposure to an equal weighted index of the largest oil and gas exploration and production companies. Okay, so maybe, who knows, maybe a stock like this is good to own if you think that there's going to be tension in the Middle East or something. It looks like it's done well in the last year. It's gone about 18%. Not much. I don't think. I think it's. I don't know if it's kept up with the market though. I don't know what the market's done exactly this year, or maybe it's right at the market. When I look at the options on the stock, yeah, I mean it's not terrible for selling options. I mean, I don't hate you for it. I mean, it just means that your preference with this asset is you like a little leverage, a little extra risk. Some people like that. Some people have a high risk tolerance or risk appetite. It's like spicy food. This is a spicy stock. So, yeah, I mean, why not? It looks like it's fun to kind of mess around with. It could be considered possibly a good long-term investment, but you got to be careful. Actually, scratch that. This stock has actually gone, it says it's gone down 95% in the last 5 years, which is kind of alarming. I don't know what the story is behind all that, but I wouldn't fault you if you enjoyed owning the asset. Remember that when they have a company like this, if I say to you, like, I think that this is a bad stock, that does not mean it's a bad investment for everybody. Because think about this stock has trading volume of 387,000 shares yesterday, I believe, which, and let's see, I don't know how many outstanding shares their average volume is 491,000. So that means that there are hundreds of thousands of people who think this is a perfectly fine investment. So don't think that because I personally say, oh no, I wouldn't mess with that, that means that it's a stock no one would mess with. It's like dating. When somebody says, I don't like that guy or I don't like that girl, it doesn't mean nobody wants them. It just means that person, it doesn't see that person as a good fit. So that's the same way with stock. So if you like it, then yeah, I think there's a lot of fun you can have with that stock. 100%. Okay, so let's keep going. Next question. Let's see. Marianne says first grandbaby is the 529 the best option. I think 529 plans are great for children, grandchildren, all that stuff. A lot of y'all are grandparents. I'm a grandparent. I can't believe it's kind of weird, right? But I take pride in it, and it's exciting to know that you have the ability to shape their lives into whatever you want it to be. You've got 50, 60 year head start on them, and their lives are just getting started. You know what's down the pike for them, if nobody prepares for them. And so I think that the ultimate sign of love is to, use some of those assets and start planting those seeds for them. If I have a 3-year-old grandchild, which I actually do, I know that I've got about 22 years or so before he really needs money and he's in a financially conscious situation. In 22 years, I can take a small amount of money and turn it into a very large amount of money. It's very easy to do. In the $5 day plan, I was explaining that if you invested simply $5 a day in the S&P 500 and you give yourself 20 years for the money to grow, that kid's going to have over $100,000. And I can tell you what, $100,000, 20 years, 25 years from now won't be what $100,000 is now, but he'll appreciate that money. That money will still matter for him. And if 100,000 ain't enough, that's fine. Just do $10 a day. Then it goes to 200,000. Or maybe you do $20, maybe, or sorry, yeah, $20 a day, which makes it into 400,000. I bet $400,000 will be a lot of money in the year 2045. And the thing about it is, what's really sad is that there are millions of kids where nobody's doing that for them. Nobody's even thinking about the future because people can't think about the future. People are not very conscious. They're not imagining what life will be like in 2040 and 2050. I think about that all the time. I always do. And a lot of people just don't think about it. And then it gets here and then your kids are in the mud just like you were. They're struggling financially. They're all stressed out. It's only going to get worse. Inflation ain't never going away. Inflation does benefit the elite and it benefits those who own assets. That's why they'll never stop inflation because with inflation, they use inflation as an indicator of a growing economy. And so when they have a strong economy, it tends to boost inflation, and inflation is typically hand in hand with a strong economy. And the problem is that it's very strange because it's like we'll see the inflation and we'll say, "Wow, the economy's really taken off." And so we got to watch the inflation, but we know inflation tends to go hand in hand with a booming economy. But then workers' wages don't keep up with the rate of inflation. So there's like a little bit of wage suppression that occurs due to the fact that the elites who decide how much inflation we're going to have and all this other stuff, they're also the ones who don't necessarily work very hard to make sure that workers' wages and incomes keeps up with inflation. They don't care. They just say, hey, you know what? If you don't want to take the job for $20 an hour, we'll bring in some Mexicans that'll do it at that price. That's the logic. So to me, the ultimate form of economic protection for yourself and your family is to invest in stocks and things like that, and stocks and real estate mostly, so that your wealth will keep up with the rate of inflation and will keep up with where the elites put their money. Congressmen, and I told you I don't like politicians that much because they're just a bunch of selfish bastards who do what's best for themselves. So I don't ask politicians to do what's best for me because I don't think they're going to do what's best for me unless it's already the best thing for themselves. What I do is say, okay, what are they doing? Where are they putting their money? Where are their economic interests? I'm going to get on the same boat as you because I know that you won't sink a boat that you're on, you selfish bastard. You understand? This idea of altruism and people just doing the right thing just because that doesn't typically happen very much in a capitalist society because I told you capitalism is a form of economic pimping. That's what it becomes in its worst form. And I just really think it's important to understand that. So anyway, let me keep going. Barbara is having a dividend stock a better strategy for an individual 65 and older to have passive income. I think the best form of passive income is selling stock options, but dividend stocks do exist. I created a list of dividend stocks that I put together. I'm going to try to see if I can find that list for you, and I'll put it in the chat so everybody can grab it. Or also maybe what I can do is I can text it out. Get on the text list, and you get on the text list for Money in the Morning, and I'll send it out to you guys. The way you get on the text list is text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. Text morning to the number 87948, and I'll send that list of dividend stocks, and I'll also send you an invitation to join us for Money in the Morning, our financial consciousness training. All right, so let's see. Next question, and I'm gonna try to find that list and just put it in here too before we're done. I just have to go dig through all my stuff. All right, so let's see. Next question is not on my screen. Okay, here we go. What are your thoughts about GOVX? Okay, GOVX, GOVX, GOVX. That's GeoVax Labs. Okay. Okay, the company's had some trouble. This dropped by 93% in the last 5 years. They're losing money hand over fist. This is a company in distress. If you think that the company can survive, then maybe an investment just sort of is sort of a hope that perhaps this company will get out of whatever tough situation it's in. Pharmaceutical companies have all that jump risk I mentioned to you all, where the stock can really jump like crazy. We had a stock in class we were talking about, and the week after we talked about it, it went up an insane amount of money, and that was because it was a pharmaceutical company, and that's kind of what they do sometimes. But they can also go down by a lot of money too. So you don't want to ever assume that it's going to be one way or the other. It can be both. As long as you're ready to accept both, then that's okay. But if you get to the point where you think that market prices can only go up, then that's kind of where you're putting yourself at risk. All right, so let's see here. Next question is APLS. What are my thoughts on APLS? Let me look it up. Yeah, I remember us talking about that stock before. Applied Sciences, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Apellis Pharmaceuticals. Apellis Pharmaceuticals. Okay. Let's see here. That's another company that's had some issues. The last year it's gone down 60%. Um, the analysts seem to like it. They're losing money, but they're losing less than they were losing before. I don't think it would be a terrible risk or terrible investment to make if you're into pharmaceutical stuff, based on the caveats that I mentioned before. Let me see. I'm trying to find that list of dividend stocks. I can't find it right here, so I gotta go and dig it up because I don't know where I put it. All right, so let's see. Next question is from Natika. Okay, what do you think about Samsung Electronics? I think Samsung is a great company. I like Samsung. They compete with Apple. They're good at making money. I don't see anything wrong with that organization. I think it's just in terms of solid companies. A lot of times, if you're not sure about, sort of whether an investment's worthwhile, I think just sort of looking to see if that company is just a solid company can go a long way in terms of letting you know what to do over the next 5 or 10 years. Because while it's impossible to tell you what a particular stock is going to do in the next 2 months, 3 months, or whatever, it's not hard to tell you what a particular industry is going to do over the next, say, 10, 15, 20 years. Okay. So It's very easy. Stevie Wonder can see that AI is going to be the next big thing. AI is similar to what the internet was. In the year 2000, if you go back to what people were saying back then, every single person knew that the internet was going to be the absolute economic beast of our economy. What they did not know was which companies were going to dominate, or exactly how much money would be made from the internet. So a better investment in the internet in the year 2000 would not have been to go and invest in the best companies of that industry. The best investment would have been some sort of fund that will allow you to be exposed to all the different companies that are the dot coms and the internet companies and things like that. And then maybe adjusting through time. So as Facebook comes along and some of these other, and Google starts to grow, maybe dollar cost averaging is having creating a diversified portfolio of stocks that are all connected to the internet. Do you see? Like, so you spread your money out. That way you're able to still take advantage of the industry, adjust to the changes that are occurring, and be a part of it without betting all of your money on one horse. I don't think that's a good move. Now, I did find that list of dividend stocks. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it here in the chat. If you guys want to take a look at it, I jokingly called it my list of dividend monsters. So when you get to the page, you're going to literally see a bunch of little monsters, little financial monsters sitting at a table because I'm just goofy like that. In case you don't know, I do have a really goofy side. Like I surprise people sometimes because they come to my YouTube channel and I love to play video games sometimes. But because I'm old and it takes a long time to learn one game, I just decided to really practice Call of Duty. So I get on there with a few of my friends who are all my age. These are my boys, and we get on online. We play Call of Duty. We talk crap to each other. And if you have questions about stocks and stuff, you can come in and ask me questions. And in between me getting shot in the face on the game, I will answer questions and talk to you. So feel free to take a look at that. Marianne says that the link won't open. Can anybody click on that link and let me know if it opens? Give me a yes if the link works. I just put that link in the chat, and I can also text it out a little bit later if you have trouble getting to here. Give me a yes if you're able to see the link. Okay, Josephine says yes. Okay. Josephine, you always come through. All right, who else? Ryan. Okay, Ryan says yes. Okay, so Marianne, you may want to try a different browser. That may be the issue there. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so how do you know when to sell off a stock? I think you mentioned you sold off some of your Apple stock. Okay, so here are some of the reasons that you might sell a stock. One reason that isn't always the best reason, in my opinion, is that you know that it's going to go down because nobody knows it's going to go down. Remember, when Apple was trading at $38 a share, a lot of people sold because they thought it had hit its peak. Or actually, it was 54, and then it went down to 38. So then all those people who sold at 54 were like, "Yeah, I'm glad I sold. I made the right decision. I'm so smart." Right? No, you're not. You just think you're smart. You were smart in 2019, but you look real stupid in 2024. You're feeling stupid in 2024 because the people in 2024 are looking back at you with the benefit of time and saying, "Why would you sell Apple stock at $54 a share? Apple's now trading at 2019." So nobody can predict. I'm just telling you. I've seen all the thousands of research papers and all that. It's not. It's just not. It doesn't work. Here are the reasons why, according to financial theory, that people might sell a stock. Number one, for what they call liquidity reasons. You just need the cash. You got something, you got to pay a bill. You have to make a margin call. You have to pay taxes or something. That's when you might sell. Another reason is because you see another investment that you'd like to make. You just, for whatever reason, believe that moving your money into this other space is going to give you a better ROI. They call that the efficient use of capital. One rule of finance is that capital must be put to its best available use. It must be efficiently used. So that's another reason. You just say, hey, you know what? I have this money in Apple stock. I want to sell my Apple stock because I want to start a business with my wife, and I believe that this business is going to make me more money than my Apple stock. A third reason that you might sell stock is because you want to diversify. You just don't want all your eggs in one basket. A lot of times when you hear about athletes or people entertainers going broke, it's because they put all their money in one investment. And they made the horrible mistake of believing that because that investment did so well in the past, it's going to keep on going up. And anybody who believes that kind of thing, I just tell them, go read the story about all the hundreds of thousands of people who lost their whole retirement because they put all their money in Enron stock. when you look at the history of Enron stock price, I'm gonna see if I can find it because I think it's a great illustration in terms of not falling for that trap when it comes to the stock market. Um, Let me see if I can find a graph that shows me Enron stock price. Okay, is there anything out here? Let's see here. Come on, show me, give me something. All right. So anyway, so with Enron stock price, it was it was one of those things where this company seemed like they couldn't lose. Like they just really came off like this company that was destined to win. And I'm looking at the chart. The chart I have in front of me is not good enough that I'm going to put up here. I really want to see the bigger picture because I want you to really kind of understand why people thought that Enron stock was going to be, this amazing investment for the rest of their lives. So basically, people had their money in Enron stock and they would sort of just keep reinvesting all the dividends and they would put any extra money they had into the stock. And if you ask them, like, well, why do you keep doing that? They would say, well, because it's a good stock. This company's made me so much money. I'm going to keep investing in the company that's made me money. And what they did not know, they hadn't read the thousands of research papers that say that past performance is not an indicator of future performance. In fact, if you listen to most investment advisor commercials, they will tell you that at the end of the commercial. If you listen to, when they're talking real fast, terms and conditions apply, and past performance is not an indicator of future performance. Blah blah blah. Blah. Stock market investing involves risk. Blah blah. Blah. Right? They do all that because they're legally required to do this. And one of the things they're legally required to let you know is that past performance does not indicate future performance. Why? Well, because everybody thinks that it does. So sometimes you sell because you just want to spread your money out. You had a good run. You bought Nvidia when it was cheap. Congratulations. But that is not a reason to double down and triple down because you're feeling this what they call the momentum effect. It does exist sometimes. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying that it's not as real as you think. And for as many people that there are who will brag, and get on Twitter and say, "I look at how much money I made," there are just as many people who got economically devastated and they're not telling anybody. You don't announce to the world when you got fried financially because you made a bad move. So diversification reasons might be what every mutual fund manager does is when they have a stock that takes off and just goes to the moon, they immediately start going into protective mode. They immediately start thinking, how do I make sure that this run does not beat me up? So I'm going to take some chips off the table. I'm going to sell some shares so that this stock does not become more than, say, 5 or 6% of my total portfolio. They have rules where they have to keep less than 5% of their assets in any one investment. They can't put all their eggs in one basket. Okay. And then also just spreading out across asset classes is important. So one example was in 2021 when the market was doing really well and I was making all this money and it was great. I immediately got worried and I said, okay, let me take some money out. I took a big chunk of my portfolio out and I went and bought a house. And that's the house in Atlanta I've told you guys about. And I did that because I know real estate is a sturdier, or it's a not sturdier, but it's a solid investment because real estate is very real. It's tangible. It tends to maintain its value a little bit better. And also, I didn't know what was going to happen with the stock market, and it just turned out that the market pretty much did. It collapsed the next year. 2022, it wasn't a good year, and I was glad I made that move. But did I know exactly what was going to happen? Not really. But it's like sort of when you had a good run you immediately want to think like a quarterback. Okay, I broke away. You ever see a football game where the guy breaks away and he starts running down the field but he's holding the ball out, and so the defensive back chases him down and knocks the ball. And first thing they do when they tackle you in football is they do this. They practice like swipe, knocking the ball out of your hand, and that's because you had a good run, but you didn't think about protecting the ball. So when you start winning when it comes to investing, you have to make sure you protect the ball. And so, for example, I did the stormproof investing training to show you 7 different ways to protect your portfolio. Anybody who wants to take a look at that, feel free to go to stormproofinvesting.com. That's stormproofinvesting.com if you'd like to take a look at that. And it's yours for life. All right, so let's see. Hillcrest Energy. What do I think about Hillcrest Energy? I think energy generally, I think I'm a believer in energy because all the indicators tell me that energy is going to become more scarce. There's going to be more competition for energy acquisition. And now Hillcrest, I don't know much about Hillcrest as a company in particular, but I can tell you what I think. HLRFT. You know what? I don't think Hillcrest is on. It's not on Robinhood, and that's the only app I have open. So yeah, so if you log in at the blackstockmarketprogram.com and you want to leave that question for me, I can go look it up on my E-Trade account. but it's not on Robinhood. So it sounds like it's a stock that's not widely traded. I don't know if it's over the counter or pink sheet or something, but that to me is an indicator that maybe that's not a great place to put money. I believe that most of your money, stock market investing wise, in my opinion, not investing advice, but in my opinion, is that Nasdaq and NYSE are good places to be, and also S&P 500 stocks tend to be the best long term. Okay, a couple more questions I'm going to bounce out. Michael Ruff, good afternoon, Doc. How do you feel about Delta Airlines stock? You know what? I From what I saw, Delta, I remember seeing some reports about Delta and the airline industry. Airlines are just such a weird industry, but Delta seemed to stand out in terms of being better than the other airlines for a lot of reasons. Yeah, I think it was Delta. I believe it was Delta that was actually able to kind of make a profit and everybody else is kind of getting their butt kicked. I like Delta as a long-term investment. And I think right now it's cheap. It's gone down by about 9% this month. So yeah, I think it's a solid business from what I've read. I know that they have a lot of analysts that are very favorable on Delta. So I'm a big fan of Delta. Do you still hold SVV? SVV. Gosh, I don't remember what it is. Oh, Savers Value Village. I think I bought it because I like the options market but no, it wasn't the options. And no, I do own it. I think I own it. I think it's in my E-Trade account. I just don't remember all the stocks that I buy because I buy a bunch every week. So, but I do believe I mentioned that one and I was buying it as I was talking about it. And it looks like it's doing well. I'm looking at it now. I know it went up today. Let me see how. Oh, 8% this week. Okay. Oh, down 12%. Oh, down. Ooh. Okay, so this one hasn't done so well this year. Okay, let me take that back. Yeah. So if I own it, a lot of times I'll buy stuff and just sit it in there and let it sit for a while. So, and remember, even when a stock doesn't do what you want it to do, remember that's better than wasting the money. At least it's storing some of your value. So even if a stock doesn't go up the way you hope it will, by investing, you at least give yourself a chance to have your money grow. If you spend your money, it doesn't grow. Dead money doesn't grow into anything. All right. So last couple questions. Okay, you're asking. The Michael's asking about Neo. So let's look at Neo. Um, I like Neo as a company. I think that it seems like they're struggling as a stock. I think Neo is very risky. That's one thing I can say about Neo. It looks like, yeah, and the whole EV market in the US is really having some trouble. So if you believe that Americans eventually are going to come around when it comes to EVs, then maybe Neo is a good place to put money because Neo will eventually emerge once the sentiment toward EVs improves. But it's very risky because the EV market is changing. China's kind of exuding their dominance over it. And a lot of Americans don't want electric vehicles, they want hybrid vehicles. But at the same time, I saw a story about robo taxis. I actually covered it on my Spotify podcast. It's called Dr. Boyce Daily Stock Market. So feel free to look that up. And I actually did a short little segment on it. Oh, everything's like 60 seconds. And basically, the robo taxis are in San Francisco and they're being used like regularly. Like you can go to San Francisco and get a robo taxi. I think that's going to be nationwide. I think eventually, nationwide, you're going to have driverless cars everywhere. The trucking industry will benefit tremendously once we get over our fear of driverless vehicles. Because even though driverless cars can have accidents, they have far fewer accidents than human drivers. Human drivers are the ones you should be scared of because they're the ones who are texting on their phones and going to sleep and, what are not paying attention. Driverless cars have so few accidents that when it does happen, it becomes national news. Like, what if it was national news every time a human had a car accident? You wouldn't have enough hours in the day to cover all the stories. So, I think that that's the wave of the future. So if you feel that way, then I think companies like Neo could be beneficial. Maybe some sort of portfolio though, with a lot of companies in that industry might be good. So, for example, on Stash, they have different areas where you can form portfolios by just buying like a few shares of some asset that they kind of pull together for you. And I think investing in the industry might be better than investing in just individual stocks. But yeah, I think EVs are going to come back. Also, just AI and all that stuff. I mean, it's all connected, right? EVs and AI. Um, you're not going. You can't put that back in the Pandora's box. It's only a matter of time. Amazon has bought what 750,000 robots, and they've replaced 100,000 jobs already. And that's going to become 200,000, 300, 400, 500,000. They're not stopping. Jeff Bezos is a technologist. Elon Musk is a technologist. Mark Zuckerberg is a technologist. These guys and their teams are on top of AI, and they're going to use AI every chance they get because all these men, every single one of these men, has been accused of workers' rights violations in one form or another. You know, Zuckerberg has been accused of misusing people's data, mistreating workers, and all this other stuff. Elon Musk is just a big old prick. He don't even like black people. He's a apartheid South African guy and who's all up into technology and AI. He fired 75% of the workers at Twitter when he took Twitter over. And then Jeff Bezos has been accused of abusing Amazon workers, where they say that they have to work so hard they don't have time to go to the bathroom. Remember that where the truckers were saying they had to pee in a bottle and all that stuff. They don't want to deal with all that. You know, these wealthy industrialists want to use robots and they want AI as soon as it's available, and the government is not going to stop them. If you notice, all of these people, almost all of them, I don't think Bezos was, but all these people were like brought before Congress and they had all these big hearings and nothing happened after the hearings. It was just like, okay, let's do the dog and pony show. Let's pretend like we're being tough on them. And then let's let them go do whatever they want. They didn't do anything. There was no follow-up to that. And then also, what's interesting from a political standpoint is that what one political dynamic, just as a side note, that's actually happening that was really surprising to me is that Silicon Valley is actually embracing Donald Trump now, which is very surprising because before Silicon Valley was known to be very liberal and they've actually leaned right. And the reason they're leaning right is because Trump has pretty much said, I'm not really going to regulate you. I'm not going to push antitrust violations on you or anything like that. So they're going to go gangbusters. They're not going to be stopped. So the AI thing is here. I encourage you to learn it, invest in it, all this stuff, connect to it because that's not going to back up. It's only going to get stronger every year or every month, literally. And in fact, actually, I put together a list of AI stocks if you want to take a look. If you text the word stock to 87948, then you can get the list sent to you. A lot of you may already be on that list, but text the word stock to 87948. And also, as a companion to Money in the Morning, we're doing something called Money in a Minute, where every single day I send you a 90-second training on some topic related to stock options each morning to kind of help you learn it within the flow of your day. So if you're interested in that, just text the word Miami to 87948. Miami stands for Money in a Minute. So that's something that we're testing out in the Black Business School to make financial literacy more of a part of our daily flow. Like I want you thinking about this stuff every single day. That's how you become a financial expert, financial genius. All right. Last quick question. How do you feel about Boeing and Roblox? I don't like Boeing. God, Lord Jesus. They're just the problem with Boeing to me is in a normal world, let me look at Boeing stock. Okay, so Boeing stock in the last 3 months has gone down just only 2%. It's gone down 28% this year, 12% in the last year, 50% in the last 5 years. Um, all that would normally say that this stock is undervalued, possibly, that maybe the market just can't appreciate a great, airline production company. But Roblox, I'm sorry, I got Roblox in front of me. Boeing is so bad that they're almost acting like criminals right now. Like they're literally talking about prosecuting people because they're so bad at what they do. The only thing that's really kept Boeing in business to this point, in my opinion, is that they don't have anybody else that can do some of the jobs that they do. But I literally fear for those astronauts that were on a Boeing rocket ship going to the space station. I said, man, this whatever they're doing, their culture is so bad. There's something wrong with Boeing. And so, long story short, I wouldn't touch that company just because what I'm afraid of is not what they've done and what I've seen. What I'm afraid of is all the stuff I haven't seen. Like I'm really sitting here thinking I think it's like seeing a roach in your kitchen. If you see the roach in your kitchen, you know there's not one roach in your kitchen. You know that. Anybody, I don't know if anybody else had roaches in the house. If you didn't, then good for you. You were privileged. Roaches were like siblings to me. I had no fear of roaches. You just flick them off the sandwich and you keep on eating. And so if you come in the kitchen and you see one or two roaches in your kitchen, you know that ain't those are not the only two roaches, right? You kill the first two, you've got a whole family up in there somewhere that you got to find. So I feel like with Boeing, no, I feel like we've only seen two roaches in the kitchen. That's my point. So that's why I would not want to invest in Boeing stock because that information is the biggest driver of a stock price. So information is not just what you know, it's also what you don't know. And then it's also what you don't know. And so with Boeing, what we don't know is massive. What we do know is horrible. What we don't know is probably pretty massive. And what we don't know could be even worse than that. So I would not put my money there. Roblox, eh, you know, it hasn't done so well over the last 5 years, that's for sure. Um, the analysts kind of like it. I know that kids love it. Let me see. I know kids love Roblox in general, so it's kind of like this thing that looks like it's the wave of the future. It looks to me when I'm looking at the story here, that well, there's not much of a story here, so they're not telling me much. Um, I don't have much of an opinion on Roblox. I wouldn't buy it myself, but I don't see it as something that if there are many places you could put your money, I will say this: there are better places to put it than Roblox. How about that? There are so many other companies that are better industries, have better management, where there's much more certainty. But if you have a special interest in this particular industry or you have an affinity for this stock, then there's nothing wrong with owning it. I think it's really okay to just look at a company and say, I want to be in that business and just aligning with that business. It's like if you want to be a hairstylist, sure, maybe you might know that maybe the hair salons are going out of style or something like that, but you just like it. You like the industry. You want to be in it. I think that's okay to invest in something because you like it. I really do. I don't think everything has to be about the money all the time. You don't want to put your money in places where you're going to lose money. But remember, one thing about stock prices is really important. When I was explaining to you all the random walk thing, how nobody can predict what a stock price is going to do. Well, one other thing about stock prices is that the price that you see is the right price at that time. The price that you see is the right price at that time. It's like when I think about my dating life, for example, and you might go back 20 years and say, "Boys, why were you dating this other person instead of dating your wife?" Well, because that was the right choice at the right time. I didn't know that I was going to be married to my wife. I didn't know who was going to be my wife. I just made the right choice, which felt right at the right time. Right. So basically, stock prices are the same way. If you ask me, do I think that Roblox is undervalued? The stock is lower. Do I think it's undervalued? I could speculate on that, but I'm speculating on nonsense. I'm speculating on something I don't know. Because remember, information is like you could think of information flow like a door. There's like a magic door where the information comes out, and when the information arrives, all the analysts put that information into the model and they say, oh, no, this is the new stock price based on this information. But most information about that company is behind the door of time. You don't know what black swan events are going to happen with Roblox in the next few years. You can make predictions, but all the predictions are part of the information that you have access to. Do you understand? The stock price that you see, this is I hope I don't get too deep with you guys on this, but the stock price that you see is really just this mathematical culmination of all available information out there about the stock, not just information about what has happened, but all information about what is expected to happen. They sat in the earnings call. They listened to the CEO. They listened to the projections. They made the speculations based on what the industry is going to do, what little kids are going to want 20 years from now, all these other things, right? They've looked at all these things, and based on all that available information, they come up with this stock price. They call that price discovery. But again, there are some things. There's some my one of my wife's favorite singers, and she's coming to Chicago, and I want to see anybody know Olita Adams. Olita's the best singer ever. I don't know why she's not famous. Everybody at the BET Awards was twerking. They should have had Alita up there. Alita would be better for the black community. And she has this song where she says, "Everything must change," right? And she says, the young become the old, mysteries do unfold. That's the way of time. I can't sing, but Olita can sing it better. But it's a great song. I used to listen to the song over and over again. The most beautiful song I've ever heard. Well, the thing about that is that's how stock prices kind of operate. That mysteries unfold because that's the way of time, right? As time goes by, more mysteries will unfold about what the true price will be, but you will only know the true price after all the events have happened. But based on where we are right now, if you look at the price of Roblox, the price that is there in the market is the best price estimate available based on all information that has been revealed. And as new information gets revealed, you see the price adjust. Like the price of Roblox probably changes every single day. That's because new information is being impounded every day. So when you ask me, do I think the price is going to go up? Do I think it's a good investment? I don't know. All I can say is that based on all available information, the price that you see is the right price. If I tell you what I think, that is merely an opinion of my assessment of where I think things are going to go from here. That's me saying, this is what I think will probably be behind the door, but nobody will really know until somebody actually knows. So that's I know that I don't want to be too philosophical on it, but that's kind of something I want you to understand because I can tell you 99% of the people I see talk about it online, they just get it wrong. But I understand why, because I studied this stuff 30 years. So it's a different kind of perception of how things work. But I want you to just understand that really when it comes to moving forward with your investing, the biggest mistake you can make when it comes to investing in the stock market is when you don't invest at all. If you allow what you don't know and the fear of the unknown to stop you from taking action, then you are making the mistake that has been proven over time to be the wrong decision. So I would say whatever you do, just do something. Wherever you invest, invest in something. Follow the basic rules. Diversify. Start with the S&P 500 companies, the VOOs and the SPYs if you want to be safe, and just be consistent with it. And I guarantee you'll be doing far better financially over time than 99% of your relatives who are too scared to make a move. So just don't be scared. Make a move. Invest. Plant your seeds. Something is going to grow. I can't tell you what it's going to be, but something will grow. One thing I can tell you is that if you don't plant anything, nothing will grow. Do you get what I'm saying? Let me know if you get what I'm saying. Okay. All right. So we're done for today. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. This is fun. We do the portfolio power play every Tuesday. And also, if you want to sign up for Money in a Minute, that's the first Money in a Minute sequence we put together with stock options. So feel free to text the word Miami. That stands for Money in a Minute. Text Miami to 87948. You can text Miami to 87948. The new podcast I mentioned on Spotify is Dr. Boyce Daily Stock Market. And also, last but not least, I want to make sure I mention to you guys, don't forget the All Black National Convention is happening October 25th through the 27th in Chicago, which is actually Lombard, Illinois, right outside Chicago. It's a really nice West End, and it's a very nice area. There's a movie theater across the street. There is a Target in the parking lot, actually, and it's just a really super cool, super nice neighborhood, and it's not far from the O'Hare Airport and the West End. We got the rooms down to $131, so the rooms are running out, so you may want to go ahead and book a room under our room rate, and it's going to be amazing. It's the largest gathering on the planet of intelligent Black people who want to specifically solve problems for the Black community in a way that breeds healthy love, healthy relationships, and healthy finances across the board for us and our children. That's what we want. That's the vision. It's very, very simple. So if that's who you are, if that's what you believe, then I encourage you to come to the convention because the convention is just the place to be. And I'm really proud of the convention also because we've had some people that have been there that are really doing some amazing things. D1 is transforming all of hip hop. He's been doing a great job. He's been at the convention 4 or 5 times as a performer. Killer Mike just won 2 or 3 Grammys or something, or 3 Grammys at the Grammy Awards. He was on the BET Awards last night. I don't like the BET Awards, but I like Killer Mike. Who else? Infinity Song, who actually was at the BET Awards last night. They performed 2 or 3 times, and so it's kind of become this awesome launching pad of really successful people. And also, in addition, but it's not just the performers we have during the ball, the B1 ball, where we all get dressed up and fancy. We also have tons of learning and connecting. So it's not just a big party at all, but it feels good. It feels more like a family reunion. So we do have fun at the ball, but there's also a ton of experts in every area from crypto to real estate, to therapy, to science, to attorneys, just whatever, right? So if that's who you are, then join us at the convention. I know you're going to love it. So anyway, if you want to learn more about the convention, you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. So have a good night, everybody. Good day. And I hope you guys have a great day. I'm going to go hang out with my wife and eat some lunch. Talk to you. Wednesday. This is where we do the free Powernomics training every Wednesday night in the Black Business School. And the reason that Powernomics training is so important is because we know that money is power, and we know that we want to go get some. We want to have power so that others do not use their power over us. And also, for the last several years, we've been reading through every single one of Dr. Claude Anderson's books. because he's the GOAT in terms of individuals that have made tremendous contributions to our society and helped us to just learn the things we need to learn and be who we need to be. And so tonight we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to read in one of his books. His book is called The Black History Reader, and I'll let you guys know what page we're on in 1 second. And also, another thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about a little bit of a current event that I just saw that I thought would be worth analyzing, exploring, and breaking down. Because you know what I do? I do the Dr. Boyce Breakdown. In fact, I have a podcast on Spotify called the Dr. Boyce Breakdown, and literally there's stuff up there every single day. So if you have Spotify on your phone, and you support independent Black media, we would love to have your back. We would love to have you subscribe. And so feel free to look me up on Spotify, look up the Dr. Boyce Breakdown, or the other podcast I have called Dr. Boyce Daily Stock Market. All right, so let me see who's in here. I want to say hi to some of y'all before we jump right into it. Hey, Lori Eubanks, I see you, Lori. Good to see you today. Thank you so much for coming in. Let's see. I saw Karen. Oh, Kendall and Karen from New York. Good to see you. All right, I love this. Bed-Stuy. Rodney Ward, San Francisco. Let's see. Landetz T. Jones. Is that right? I probably said it wrong. But good to see you. Sacramento in the house. I love Black Sacramento. I did an event in Sacramento about 7 years ago, and I never forgot how amazing that city was and just how awesome the Black folks were in Sacramento. DMV I see Rev Joe. That's all I see of your name. I don't see the rest there. Akila Hooker. Good to see you, Akila. Taquana Logan from East Rancho Dominguez, California. Did I see East Atlanta for Kwame? Okay, good to see everybody in here. And I saw Black London in the house. Good to see everybody. Okay, so yeah, so here is the first thing that I wanted to kind of discuss and sort of address. Did anybody else hear about this? Did anybody else hear that that BET is on the chopping block in terms of being sold by their parent massa, Paramount? Because BET is not a Black owned company. We know this, right? BET it's not Black entertainment television. It's white entertainment television in blackface. That's what that is. It's not a Black company. It's a white company that has Black people in it, that uses Black culture and sells Black culture to you pretty much, and gets corporate sponsors to give them money because they go to the corporations. They say, we have, like Trump said, we have all the Black people. We have all the Black people, and we will gather all the Black people to come and watch Sexy Red twerking on the stage. Get it sexy, get it sexy. And when we get all the Black people, they love to buy things. They buy everything. So you advertise to us, you pay us money, pay us billions of dollars, and we will go gather the Black people, and then we're all gonna get rich together. And that's kind of what BET is. And BET, in case you don't know, is owned by a company called Paramount Global. And for many years, Paramount Global was run by a family called the Redstone family. The patriarch of that family was a weirdo named Sumner Redstone. He was a funny guy. I don't know I think he's dead. He might, but maybe he's alive. I don't want to kill him too quick. But I think he was like 92 and had like a 35-year-old girlfriend or something. So he was probably doing some old Diddy Hugh Hefner type stuff. And anyway, so the Redstone family, apparently they have run Paramount into the ground. BET, if you work for BET, you better be worried because your economic daddy is having some problems. If you study Paramount Global, you'll see that Paramount Global has a big problem, and their problems can be summarized very quickly in terms of too much debt. They got about $15 billion in debt that they can't really service. They overpay for their content. They put out way too much money for content. Now they don't overpay for BET content. That they overpay for other content. Not, but the BET content they get the discount. And I don't. Yeah, they're not going. Sexy Red probably cost you like $8 in a bag of Cheetos to get her to twerk on stage while she's pregnant or something. So that's cheap. That's there. So BET is, as Black people always have been, BET is the golden asset of Paramount. It is really a nice little business where they're like, hey, we can go buy these Negroes for $1.99 and we can then sell them to advertisers and make our money just like we did in slavery. So it's something the rest on died in 2020. Thank you, Janet. I did not know that he was dead. I could not remember. I don't know the family that well. I know the basics. So let me kind of read to you about the sale of BET and what I've sort of seen, and then kind of give you a Dr. Boyce perspective on this. And just so you know, I'm coming. You know what I am. I'm probably gonna sound like a hater Because I am. I kind of am. I hate anybody who hates us. I just well I don't hate, you know what I mean? But I don't if when you hate us that much that you just want our children dead, you want our kids in prison, you want our people as ignorant as possible. You want more broken families. You want to celebrate all the things that harm us. You want to celebrate black people dying young from diabetes and fried chicken. You want to celebrate mental illness. You want to celebrate busted, broken relationships. You want to celebrate economic despair. You want to celebrate poverty. You want to celebrate the lack of education. That's gonna make me a hater. I'm gonna sound like a hater, so I have to be honest with you. I'm really not particularly interested in having a lot of patience with anybody who's probably doing more damage to the black community than the KKK ever could. There is no Klansman. There is no Trump supporter. There's no Democrat or Republican that could ever do as much damage to the black community as BET is probably doing when they celebrate some of the stuff that they celebrate. In fact, if you recall, BET was the network that that really elevated R. Kelly right after he got caught on video with that little girl. If you go back and you look back maybe about 2003, 2002, 2004, something like that, this was way before I was doing any of this. This is way before any of you knew who I was because I was just on the faculty at Syracuse University. No one knew who I was. Nobody cared. I remember I called my wife, Alicia, who's now my wife. She was my friend back then, and I remember calling her and I said, "How in the hell are they putting this Negro on TV?" and making him the keynote performer. They didn't just it was right after. If you recall, go look at the history. It was right after this man, was on this tape with this little girl. I don't know if that was the time he peed on the girl or not. I get them mixed up. There's so many pee stories about R. Kelly. And if you remember, the only network that really stood by him was BET. BET brought him on for an interview after the incident, and that was where he was given an opportunity to do some damage control. And he kept saying, "Just focus on my music, just focus on my music," because that's the goal, right? If we get you to focus on how good my music is, then you're going to forget about all these other things that are going on. And then for the BET Awards, I will never forget. I said, I wonder if they're going to have him perform on the BET Awards because a lot of radio stations had banned his music at the time. Not only did they have him perform on the BET Awards, they gave him the longest set. They like everybody else's performance might have been 3 or 4 minutes. His had to be like 12 or 13 minutes, maybe 15. It was really long, and it was a full-fledged music video, all that stuff. Maybe it was 03, 04-ish around that time. And I just remember thinking, Lord Jesus, is that all? So y'all really, that's all y'all really care about is the money, huh? And so this is the history. And I'm sorry, I don't think you can be nice about it. What BET kind of does is I understand what they're seeking to do. They try to balance the crazy and the negative with a little bit of positive to try to say, well, no, we got this and we got that, and I love that. They have Infinity Song who performed at the All Black National Convention several times. They were at the BET Awards this year. I think D1's been invited, stuff like that. So I think that their goal is to say, look, we got a range. But I think I was talking to my wife about it the other day, and I said, okay, so if I gave you 30 gallons of Kool-Aid and it was like the best Kool-Aid you've ever had, but I tell you, oh, by the way, there's about 2 ounces of piss in the Kool-Aid. Like I just put a little drop of urine in the Kool, just a little pee, just a little. It's not a lot. You won't taste it. You won't taste the pee in the Kool-Aid, but because there's 30 gallons of Kool-Aid and just one drop of pee. Is that okay? Like, would y'all drink the Kool-Aid? How many of y'all, yes or no? Would you want to drink the Kool-Aid if it had even just one little drop of pee in it? But it was like the best Kool-Aid you ever had, but it's just one drop, just a little drop of pee in there. What do you think? I don't know. What do y'all think? And I think that's kind of what the point, the argument would be is that, if you think about it, if someone was to make the argument and say, well, no, look at all the good things BET does, that outweighs the bad things. I think that's an interesting conversation because then you can make that same argument about R. Kelly or Bill Cosby or really anybody, any person or entity that's done terrible things. You could say, well, even if you dislike Donald Trump, for example, or if you look at Joe Biden and know that he incarcerated more black men than any president in American history, or you look at Donald Trump and what he wanted to do to the Central Park Five, you can make the exact same argument. You could say, no. But look at all the good things. Look at all the good stuff he did. It's okay. It's all that's forgiven because he did this good stuff. And I think that that's not an argument. That's not a debate for me to have for you. That's a debate I want you to have for yourself. And I think all of us have to kind of balance that out and figure that out. Like, what does this look like? So BET is very dangerous, to be honest with you. And I know I upset people over there, and I'd hate to be the guy who's saying these things. But I think that they know these things. They know these things, and the reason I know is because I had a conversation with a guy named TJ Holmes, and back when he worked with BET, and I remember he called me. Somehow Don Lemon gave him my number and he called me on my phone and we talked. And I think he was surprised that I understood their business model so well. He said, I was in a meeting and he said, I could have, it was almost like you wrote that article as if you were in the meeting with us. I couldn't believe that you wrote. And I said, yeah, well, because I understand how racism works. I understand how powerful media is. I understand what capitalism does. I understand when you mix money and media, that can be a formula for oppression. When you mix money and media, so y'all got to understand this. This is an economic lesson. I'm about to dive into this article in a minute, but um, when you have the money, which white people have much more than you, so if you measure your success based on how much money you have, then you're automatically going to be a white supremacist. And the reason is because white people have most of the money. That's like a fish measuring it's the quality of the fish by how fast it runs the 100-meter dash. A fish will always be inferior to a panther because panthers run fast and fish do not. Fish, they swim. So what the fish would have to do in order to create a level playing field is stop trying to be a track star. Stop trying to be something that you're not. Stop trying to give your opponent the advantage by competing with their rules and their standards. Do you understand? So stop measuring success, your success, my success, black success by how much money you have or how famous you are, how much you're on TV. Because that's something, if you want to talk about this whole oppression, white supremacy thing, well, they own the TV networks. They own the radio stations. They have the capital bases. They own the banks that fund these institutions. So how the hell are you going to compete with that? How are you? You can't do that. The only way you can really win is you have to change the rules. You have to throw out the whole competition altogether and create something that gives you an advantage. So ultimately, when you mix money and we love money. It's really fascinating to me. In case you're new, my background is I'm a finance guy. I've been teaching finance for a long time. When you really consider how much we love money and how much we worship people just because they made money or just because they're on TV, um, it's really fascinating to me because we don't have that much money to begin with. So you can't measure black success based on who has the most money or who's the most famous. Give me a guess if you understand that. We have to pick other criteria. What are those criteria? I'm going to allow you to decide what that's going to be, but it has to be something other than that. So with BET, it's the perfect formula for oppression. And I'm going to read this article to you and tell you what's going on with BET. Another real surprise with this pending purchase of BET is that they cut the price in half. And the price, when Byron Allen made a bid for BET, he bid $3.5 billion. Now they're in talks to sell it for 1.7 billion, according to Variety. Now here's what Variety's saying. Now that was a real shocker to me. I'm like, why? So maybe BET's struggling. I don't know. I mean, this is very surprising when the price gets cut that much. So they said here in this article in Variety, it says BET or Paramount is reportedly in talks to sell BET for 1.6 billion in a buyout led by CEO Scott Mills. I don't know Scott Mills. I guess he's the CEO of BET. He seems like a nice guy. I don't know. He's got a bald head like me, but he's got kind of a little George Jefferson thing going on. But seems like a nice dude. I don't know this man. It says Paramount Global's trio of co-CEOs have publicly said they've hired bankers to evaluate the sale of certain assets. Industry speculation has swirled around BET, which has been the target of acquisition offers in the past. Now, Paramount Global is engaged in exclusive discussions to sell BET in a deal valued at 1.6 to 1.7 billion to quote buyers that include end quote BET CEO Scott Mills and Chen Chu, founder of private equity firm CC Capital, Bloomberg reported, citing anonymous sources. The BET Media Group comprises the BET cable channel, VH1, and other networks, the BET Plus streaming service, and BET Studios. Reps for Paramount Global and CC Capital declined to comment. Shares of Paramount Global rose on the report of the renewed sales talks, closing up 5.7% for the day to $10.72. Interesting, right? The latest reported price range for BET is less than half of the 3.5 billion that media mogul Byron Allen extended to Paramount Global in late 2023. So let's think about this for a minute. let's be conscious of time for a moment. What month is this and what year? This is what, July 2024. And just late 2023, you had a bid that was twice as high as what you're selling the company for now. What's happening? That just doesn't add up. It seems to me that Byron Allen was offering you 3.5 billion 7 or 8 months ago. You would have taken the bid. Now, the only possibility I'm thinking about is perhaps they didn't believe that it was credible. Remember, anybody can bid anything for anything. Anybody can pop up and say, "Oh, I'll give you $10 billion for your house or something," but they have to be able to raise the money. And so I think that with Byron, I think the question might have been, can he really go get the money? Or is he just making big bids, hoping he can go raise the money? Is he just doing it for attention? Nobody knows. And I know that with Byron Allen, it seemed to me that the Griot was having some trouble. I know he bought the Griot. I think that they were overspending on their content. I got that sense because I know he had to let a lot of people go. He had to fire a lot of people. The media business is a tough business. So some other bidders were were Tyler Perry and Sean Diddy Combs. Can you imagine if they sold BET to Diddy? Wouldn't that be something else? In August 2023, Paramount called off the bidding process for BET because, quote, a sale wouldn't result in any meaningful deleveraging of its balance sheet. I'm confused. It's just 8 months later. So now it wouldn't. So 3.5 billion wouldn't result in you paying off enough debt, but 1.7 billion will. So I think that what's happened is that Paramount's in even deeper, much deeper trouble than it was at the end of 2023. But I can tell you, as a person who's been following Paramount stock for a long time, that company's been in trouble for a while. So I'm very surprised that they're even talking about this. Let's see here. The three executives running Paramount Global have outlined a three-pronged strategy of job cuts, asset sales, and streaming partnerships to right the ship. The company's going solo for now after controlling shareholder Sherry Redstone, who's the son of Sumner, or sorry, daughter of Sumner Redstone, nixed M&A talks with Skydance Media as those came down to the wire. The leadership trio, George Cheeks, president and CEO of CBS, Chris McCarthy, president and CEO of Showtime, MTV Entertainment Studios and Paramount Media Networks, and Brian Robbins, president and CEO of Paramount Pictures and Nickelodeon, were installed as co-CEOs after Bob Bakish's dismissal. Okay, another prime asset Paramount Global is expected to shop around is the Paramount Pictures Studio. So basically, okay, here we go. Let me move on to they talk about Chris Mills, the guy that I mentioned. I think his name was Chris Mills, the CEO of BET. I hope I got Scott Mills. I'm sorry, Scott Mills. Um, let's see. They said here, speaking of the June 25th employee town hall, CBS's Cheek said the Paramount's co-CEOs are looking to sell certain Paramount-owned assets. In fact, we've already hired bankers to assist us in this process, blah, blah, blah. Scott Mills has led BET since January 2018, adding CEO to his title in 2021. He first joined BET in 1997 as a senior VP of business development and rose through the ranks over the years to various senior roles. As COO of BET, he led the launch of his Centric channel, and as president of digital media, launched BET Mobile and BET's digital video distribution operations. Okay. So there's more. You can go look up more if you want to. But basically, BET is owned and run by Paramount, as we mentioned earlier, and basically Paramount has too much debt. The traditional media that they built their business on, Sumner Redstone is really good with traditional media and traditional cable. All that stuff's kind of dying. It's kind of going away, and so they're losing money in a pretty horrible way, and they're just overspending on their content. They had this show that I liked called Yellowstone, and they had this writer named Taylor Sheridan who wrote the show, and I guess because his shows were so good, they gave him like the ability, kind of a blank check to just create a bunch of other shows that are on the network. I forgot the name of it. I think one of them stars Sylvester Stallone's like Tulsa King or something, and a couple more. But anyway, the funny thing was that they were, and this is something for you to remember when you go build your own business, is that if you recall, remember the other day, how many of you were in financial consciousness training in the last couple of days where I talked about the free cash flow problem? Does anybody remember when we talked about the free cash flow problem and what happens when companies or even individuals just have too much access to cash? Well, what happens is you become less efficient, you become less financially conscious, you start to just make it rain, you start throwing around, you start becoming a rapper in the strip club, dropping $100 bills in stripper thongs, right? So basically, Taylor Sheridan, there was a deep Wall Street Journal analysis of Taylor Sheridan and the toxic financial relationship between Paramount and Taylor Sheridan, where basically they said that because Paramount Global had given this guy free range to do whatever the hell he wanted, he was creating amazing content, but he wasn't profitable anymore. This man was going around talking to other farmers, from what I understand. At least that's what the report insinuated. He was literally talking to his homeboys and saying, look, these people are suckers. These Hollywood suckers, they got all this money. You can rent your horses for $2,000 a day. You can use I use my property and they pay me $50,000 a day to use my land. He would fly in horse trainers from other states. When he would be in a state with plenty of horse trainers, but he would feel the need to fly his horse trainers in from Texas or whatever. So basically, they didn't sort of consider the fact that yes, you do have a hit. Yeah, you are making money, but you have to remember the most important rule of financial success. It is to live within your means. It is to spend less than what you make. If you, I don't care if you make $1 trillion a year, if you spend more than you make, you're only digging yourself into a deeper and deeper financial hole. And so what happened with Paramount Global as a result, and this just gives you the backdrop. And I'm talking about this because BET is part of the community, and y'all people be out here thinking that it's a black owned company, and it's not. Um but so the thing about Paramount that was interesting. So what happened was Taylor Sheridan, his shows were so good that they got a million new subscribers with Paramount. That's really good. They got a million new subscribers in a quarter. But that same quarter, I think they lost either $1 or $2 billion. They had $1 billion loss. While like literally the greatest period of growth in your company is a massive loss. And so keep that in mind. Be efficient with your money. Be efficient with your income. Conservatism is a culture. And I can tell you that if you don't embrace that, then you could have some financial challenges. And this goes for an individual, this goes for a company, or and everything in between. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I think that's a lesson to learn. I'll keep you posted on what happens with BET and who their new massa is, and maybe maybe Scott Mills will buy it, and then I guess it'll kind of be a black owned company. But the other things I'd always be interested in who's really funding this, right? Because I'm a believer that it's not the manager who makes the difference, because he's been managing BET for a long time. He's been the economic babysitter of this entity for a very long time. The real power is the person who's actually writing the checks. That's the person who, or the group who has the veto power. And the big problem you have with black media right now, here's the problem that you have. And this is something I want to talk about before we dig into the book. Unhealthy black people are very profitable. Vices and addictions are extremely profitable. Vices and addictions and unhealthy behavior are much more profitable than people living with intelligence, consciousness, and discipline. And what do I mean by that? It's much easier to sell black people fried chicken than it is to sell them health food. You actually have to care about them to get them to buy health food, because you're not going to make as much money. So if money is your only criteria, then you don't sell people things that are going to help them. You sell them their vice. You sell them the things that they want, not the things that they need. And that's the biggest problem that you have with BET, is that there is a part of the culture that has become quite accustomed to all of the cultural poisons that kill our young people at an early age. There's a part of the culture that really embraces the drugs because drugs are fun. I don't use drugs. I never popped a Molly before, but I bet I would like it. I ain't never hit the crack pipe. But if you'd say, well, how do you know crack is bad if you never tried it? Well, no, I know that if I tried, I would probably enjoy it. In fact, if I was to try it, I wouldn't be the man that I am right now. I'd be on here justifying crack use because I wouldn't want to give up that high. The reality is that when you talk about the problems that we have, we're very comfortable in the dysfunction. We're starting to celebrate the dysfunction. We celebrate it because what they do is they sprinkle money on top of it, and they sprinkle fame on top of it. So you look at a young lady like a Krishan Rock. I don't know if you ever know, if you anybody, how many of y'all, I keep up with all the culture. Me and my wife do. I don't know, some of y'all I know don't keep up, but you need to look up Krishan Rock and Blueface. How many of y'all are familiar with Krishan Rock and Blueface? Anybody else? Because I watch the culture, because I like to see, because in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, I talk about economics, but all I talk about is culture. What does a strong economic culture look like? And we don't have one, people. We just don't. We have a long way to go. Well, Krishan Rock and Blueface, to summarize it, they're kind of like the new version of, it's, imagine Bobby and Whitney at 25 years old, but also imagine that neither one of them have any talent. Like Bobby Whitney could sing. Bobby could dance and jump around and sing and wiggle and all that. And Whitney had the most beautiful voice ever. She actually had to earn her way to fame. Krishan Rock and Blueface don't really have any talent like that. They're not that great. They're okay. I think Blueface made a song or two, but they're not that good. But they're similar to Bobby Whitney. They're just this train wreck in slow motion. Like you're watching these two young people literally kill themselves in public. And the reason it ends up seeming okay is because they've got lots of money and lots of fame, and they've got millions of Twitter followers and Instagram followers that will watch them destroy each other's lives. And Krishan had a baby, fetal alcohol syndrome, by looking at the face of a child, and she was deeply concerned with Krishan's child because she knows that Krishan loves to party it up. They were at the BET Awards twerking, and pregnant women twerking and holding liquor bottles. And one of the things, for example, this is one of many things we could talk about, but I'm not going to go into all of it because I don't want to depress anybody. But do you understand that when you're promoting the city girl culture of all these young black women that are being told to go out and twerk and drink liquor all day and have sex with just anybody, fetal alcohol syndrome is literally one of the quiet epidemics that's occurring in the black community. If you look at the symptoms and the effects of fetal alcohol syndrome, you're talking about significant cognitive delays and significant behavioral problems of millions and millions of black children. I was shocked by how little alcohol the mother had to consume during her pregnancy for fetal alcohol syndrome to kick in. So think about this. You live in city girl life because you've been watching the BET Awards, and Krishan Rock and Megan Thee Stallion told you that's how a young girl's supposed to live. You've been having sex. In case you don't know, sex results in pregnancy, and that means children are going to be born. For those who need a biology lesson, sometimes we forget. And so you're pregnant for maybe 4 weeks, but you don't know you're pregnant. So every week you're getting drunk and getting high every single week. Well, that is where the fetal alcohol syndrome comes from. And what many people, what nobody has talked about, I have not seen anybody on the internet address this at all, is that millions of young children, young black children, are getting fetal alcohol syndrome because you don't have to drink that much for that to really disrupt the brain of your child. I'm talking about significant neurological problems, like they're slow for the rest of their life and have behavioral problems for the rest of their life. So this is one of the many things that I think has to be addressed, right? Somebody has to talk about it. And when people talk about these things, you can't just say, well, you be hating. That can't be your response. Man, that's not hate, that's love. Now, the real hater are the people who celebrate this kind of stuff, who know what it leads to, who see the millions of black kids going to prison and getting killed and all this other stuff and think that that's okay. And so part of my job, in my opinion, is as a person who talks to you about money, is I need you to really understand money from a 360 standpoint, which means that money is good, it's nice, but it can destroy you or distract you and mislead you. Money can get you to heaven, but money can also be the devil. Money can be the devil shows up with a bag full of money. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but BET has become kind of the devil of the black community. Everything that is harmful and destructive and terrible about being black tends to get celebrated in these spaces, and they dress it up with money and fame, and we think that that makes it okay. But even before people realized that Diddy was a predator, there were people who always said that, but there were many people who would have argued you down because they would have said, no, 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 Diddy's one of the leaders of the black community. And process this. Think about this for a moment. One of the biggest predators that in the media right now is a guy who 4 years ago was telling you who to vote for. Anybody remember Vote or Die? He was telling you got to vote or you're going to be dead or something stupid like that, right? And people were doing this. Millions of people were following the lead of a person who has a complete track record of 30 years of doing horrible, harmful things to people, possibly including starting with killing Tupac, right? So I think generally, and this is where we're going to dig into. We're going to read tonight about black leadership and the history of black leadership, so you can understand that sometimes you're following the wrong leaders. That's my point. In fact, it's so dangerous to follow a black leader nowadays, in my opinion, that I don't really want you following any leader. I don't even want you follow. I don't want you following me. I'm just an advisor. I'm a person who's got a perspective. If you'll hear my perspective, then that's all I ask you to do. I'm not asking you to follow me because generally speaking, it is difficult for black people on a mass scale to distribute a message that is going to be beneficial to all black families. Most of the messages that are healthy are not going to make as much money as the unhealthy messages that are going to point you to more ignorance, uh, drug abuse, and ratchetism. That's what makes the money. This black intelligence stuff is not a big money maker. Okay. All right. So let me jump into the book. We're going to read tonight from Dr. Claude Anderson's book, The Black History Reader. We're going to go to page 158. Now, Dr. Claude Anderson, his books, I always have to mention his website. It's powernomics.com. So you can go to powernomics.com, get all of his books. These are the must-read books for every black person in America that wants to do better. He's the modern day Marcus Garvey. He's one of the greatest black thinkers in the country, which is one of the reasons why he's seen as dangerous even by many HBCUs, because their bills are being paid by people who don't want to see the black community gain too much power and influence. But if you read his book, Powernomics, it will transform you immediately. And I'm not here to say every entertainer is bad. I can tell you, Kanye West saw Powernomics. He immediately was affected by it. Ice Cube saw Powernomics, immediately influenced by it. Charlemagne the God, Tiffany Haddish, people like that. A lot of celebrities, even Diddy flew Dr. Anderson into his office because he has so much respect for Powernomics. So some of this, so what's going on, in my opinion, is that there are people who know that something's wrong. They just can't put their finger on it. Like they're just not sure. They're like, okay, something ain't right here. It's like you're playing a game and somehow the other team keeps winning. Somehow Massa always he ends up with all the money, all the power, and all the positive outcomes belong to him. And you always end up in last place. And you can't figure out. And every time you say, wait, this game seems rigged, he has you brainwashed. He's been educating you and grooming you, right? So he can exploit you, right? He just like a groomer would groom. He's been grooming you through the educational system to buy into a set of ideas where all of the disparities can be explained away. And so you walk away concluding a bunch of nonsense like, oh, well, the reason that white people have all the money is because white people just work harder than black people. And the way to fix those problems is we all got to go vote for our favorite white man, either the old arrogant narcissist or the old guy who can't remember his kids' names right now. Like that's the guy, that's what we do, and that's going to get us where we need to get to. And so to some extent, the reason that Dr. Anderson is dangerous is because he's encouraging you to wake up. And really, I will tell you, my position is very simple. I'm not really telling you to do what I tell you to do. I'm not telling you to do what I believe you should do. I'm telling you to do what's going to be best for you. And I want you to study that. I want you to figure this out. And again, it goes back to very simple things: health, wealth, and relationships. What does it mean for black people to be physically and mentally healthy? There wasn't much on the BET Awards that led to physical or mental health. None of that. There's nothing about a pregnant woman twerking and holding a liquor bottle that says anything about a young lady having a positive, wonderful life. It speaks that she's going to be abused, assaulted. She's going to be depressed, and have and fatherless for her children. Her children are going to be unhappy. There's going to be a lot of poverty. There's going to be a lot of despair. What's healthy about that? What's physically and mentally healthy about any of that? The second area is relationships. We need families. We lost our families. Who's getting our families back? What is it when you watch the BET Awards? What about the BET Awards on any level, in my view, is pro family? There's nothing. I mean, if you're highlighting the sexy reddish, type stuff, there's nothing about that that's pro family. Nothing. There's nothing about that that speaks of responsible planning of when you have a child and who you have a child with. All that's promoted typically is very irresponsible, very sloppy sex. I'm going to go sleep with whoever I want. STDs are very, very high because a lot of people fall into this culture. And also, broken families are very high. A lot of people don't even have the training of what's required to even have a healthy relationship with another human being that is necessary to provide a protective space for a child. So, when a child is not protected by a father, that increases the probability that he ends up getting molested, or that he ends up in the street, or that something bad happens to him, or ends up in prison. And then you go down the third area. What does it mean for black wealth to actually go up? There's nothing that I've seen rappers really do that's improved or increased black wealth in the black community at all. Nothing. And then when you turn to the politicians, all they do is they offer you jobs working for white people. So those are the two options you get. You either get a rapper who brags about how much money he has, but ain't putting nothing in your pocket, or you get a politician who says, here, come work for me, Negro. I'll give you a job. I'll help you in your desperate situation. Well, who's giving you the long-term plan that's going to really allow you to have the peace of financial security? Who's really giving you the solutions that are going to allow you to actually prosper instead of just survive? Who's doing that? There's nothing in mainstream media, or very little in mainstream media, that I see that is really sort of doing these things that's really going to get the Black community where we need to be. We're not only are we being given the wrong medicine, we're being given no medicine, and we're given a bunch of poison disguised as medicine. So that's what I believe. That's my 2 cents. All right, so let me start reading here. And by the way, if you're not on the text list to get invited to Powernomics training on Wednesday, just pull out your phone, text the word greatness, GREATNESS, greatness to 87948. Text greatness to 87948. And also, we have my book is the 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can get a copy at drboycebooks.com. Use the code word book club and get 30% off everything in the store. So feel free to go to drboycebooks.com and you can check that out. All right. So here's what Dr. Anderson reveals on page 58 of the Black History Reader that it was really fascinating to me. Did you know that Black leadership changed their position on immigration around the 1960s? Did you know that? That they actually had a completely different policy on immigration before the civil rights movement. And basically, whoever was controlling them pretty much got them to pivot and shift in a different direction. I don't know if y'all know this, but let me read this to you. I'm going to tell you, this is what Dr. Anderson says. I literally have not read this yet, so I'll be as surprised as you when I get to whatever he says. So he says here, Black leaders and activists unilaterally expressed opposition to the nation's open door policy on immigration throughout the 19th century. These conscious Black leaders expressed concern that immigrants were reinforcing the subordination of the native Black population, as well as usurping the access of Blacks to rights, privileges, employment, education, and wealth building opportunities. The negative impact of immigrants worsened after the Civil War when millions entered the country. After slavery, there was a labor shortage, and one would have logically expected the former slaves. Think about this. You have a labor shortage. You got all these former slaves. You got all these Black people, hardworking people that they've been working for free. So you know they're going to make good employees. They've been working for free. So here on page 159 of the Black History Reader, Dr. Anderson is telling you that whatever you learned in school was a bunch of BS. So listen to this. The negative impact of immigrants worsened after the Civil War when millions entered the country. After slavery, there was a labor shortage, and one would have logically expected the former slaves who had been skilled tradesmen, carpenters, blacksmiths, cooks, artisans, and farmers to fill those jobs. But the country recruited and imported European immigrants instead. The pattern was just beginning. For more than a century, Black leaders had struggled and challenged the white power structure to close the nation's immigrant doors. So they were asking them to shut the doors. They were like, look, you got your workers here. We got you. We can do this. But they were like, no. Rather than working with you, we're going to go get some people from England. That's what he's saying here. So it says, for more than a century, Black leaders had struggled and challenged the white power structure to close the nation's immigrant doors. In his famous 1895 Atlanta Expo speech, Booker T. Washington pleaded with white industrialists, businessmen, and politicians not to look to European immigrants to develop skills and work in their businesses, but to instead look to native Blacks. How about that? Washington also pointed out that many already had the skills, attitudes, and experiences to meld into the mainstream society. W.E.B. Du Bois was against immigration and spoke frequently about the downside for Blacks of 40 million white immigrants coming into the country, doing the jobs of former slaves and being automatically elevated into an overseen white management class. How many of you have ever heard this before? How many of you have ever heard this anywhere? So maybe their concept in their head was, if you do have Black jobs, every job should be a Black job. Any job we can do is a Black job. A Black man can fill that job. So I believe that you have to own the companies and all that for sure, but you can't, Booker T. Washington, that was a great man. George Washington Carver, W.E.B. all these individuals were people who said, yeah, well, some of us want these Black jobs. We don't want to have fathers and mothers that are unemployed. We want to have opportunities to make money and to go to work like everybody else. We're already very hardworking people. So stop bringing in outside recruits to replace us. But now, years later, we support wide open. A lot of us just support wide open doors and don't even know why. Only reason you support it is because Joe Biden told you to support it. That's it. That's the only reason you support it. You forgot about the mass incarceration and the crime bill and all. You don't even think about that's why Shaquana ain't got no daddy. You're not even connecting the dots on that. You're just so quick to just do whatever they tell you to do that you don't even think about it. I'm not mad at you for voting for Democrats and Republicans. I get that. I know lesser of two evils. Okay, I get it. But still, what I have a problem with is that some of us don't even think about it. Some of us don't even come to our own conclusion. We just say, okay, what you want me to do? What you want us to do? And that's my problem. That's my problem is that you're not even processing the information. You're not even thinking like, well, what's best for me? You've told me what's best for you, but I need to make sure that what's best for you is also best for me. That's the problem that I have. And that was really the whole crux of why I just really got really annoyed when I would get calls, when I was at AOL Black Voices 12 years, 14 years ago, whatever, and I would get calls from the Obama administration. At first I thought it was kind of cool. It's interesting. It's like, oh wow, okay, President Obama, I'd love to help. But Lord, when I got on the phone, all they were literally trying to do was get me to do what they told me to do. And I was like, who do you think I am? I mean, I'm not fit for slavery. I don't do that. And this happens a lot with Black elite people. I'm gonna be honest. That was the gist of the conversation I had with Kanye West. As we get on the phone, he's like, "I want you to do this and do that and do that." And I text my friend. I said, "Does this guy think I work for him?" He doesn't. I don't work for nobody. The things that matter to you don't matter to me, bro. I don't care that you got a million little Asian kids to buy your ugly ass shoes. Those things are overpriced and ugly. You will never. I wouldn't wear them for free. So what makes you think I'm gonna bow to any of this? Like we're obviously playing different games with different rules. This makes no sense to me. So again, what you have in America, generally speaking, is you have a class. You do have that elite class that is very quick to sort of expect that the masses will simply do what they're told. And the unfortunate reality is that they're almost always right. They're almost always correct. The studies show that most people, because they're not sure who they are, they're too scared to be different. They don't want to be seen as radical and dangerous and all that. They just go right along with whatever's cool, whatever's hip, whatever's popular. I can't, that's not healthy. That's not good. So let me keep reading here. So according to Dr. Claude Anderson, and by the way, if anybody asks what page we're on, if somebody in the chat could just tell them so I don't have to say I'm gonna say it like a couple times, but then I see sometimes then even if I say it 3 times, someone will say, what page are we on again? Just tell them if they ask. If y'all can help me out with that, I'd appreciate it because that's gonna trigger my ADHD and y'all know how I get. All right, so let's pop in page 159, the Black History Reader. So Dr. Anderson mentions Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois were very much against wide open borders. Let's see here. When the Black Civil Rights Movement commenced in the late 1950s, the new Black leadership dismissed or ignored the opinions of their predecessors. One can only speculate as to the reasons. Perhaps they did not have the foresight to fully understand the politics of displacement that was occurring, that they were being replaced. Or maybe they were unknowledgeable about this nation's immigration history, where Black people used to have a much larger percentage of the population. Or maybe they wanted to demonstrate altruism, or they simply preferred to ignore or forget history and go along to get along as much as they could. Whatever the reasons, the new Black leadership switched from the anti-immigration stance of their predecessors to being pro-immigration. While the reason for the change in position is not clear, it is clear that they made the switch without fully understanding that providing unearned rights and benefits to people who are from other countries chasing the American dream caused native Black Americans to be neglected, disadvantaged, and rendered invisible in all respects. The old the old Black anti-immigration fighters must be turning over in their graves. Black civil rights organizations and politicians began to presume alliances with newly arriving immigrants. They began to presume that anybody who comes into the country is automatically going to be unified with the Black community. And I want to ask y'all a question. Give me a yes or no. How many of y'all think that the majority of people that come in from other countries are just, vehemently pro-Black? How many of you believe that everybody who comes from, say, I don't know, south of the border is going to just line up and show up at the reparations rally and and just really make sure that y'all are good? Anybody believe that nonsense? Yeah, yeah. So maybe they're making us into Boo Boo the Fool. And I say boo boo the fool because, almost like the little kid, the kid who rode the little bus to school, who thought that people were his friends when really they weren't. So you think that the bully is your friend when really he just beats you up and takes your lunch money every day, or you think that every time he makes a joke and him and his friends are laughing at you, you think that you're laughing together, so you start laughing too, and the kid starts laughing too. Like the slow. So maybe we're like the slow kids on the little bus. Maybe we're the ones who, and no offense if anybody in here rode the little bus, or if you got a relative, I'm not making fun of those people because I think that they're actually smarter than us in certain areas. But really, you think about that, there sometimes you don't know when the joke is on you. Sometimes you don't know when people are laughing with you versus when they're laughing at you. And I think that we, to some extent, fall for the rope a dope because many of us get our political habits from people who just told us what to do and what to say and what to believe. We didn't actually form those beliefs on our own. And that's very, very dangerous because propaganda is real, manipulation is real. This does happen. So let me keep going here. So here's what else Dr. Anderson says on page 160 of the Black History Reader. He says civil rights organizations and politicians began to presume that there were alliances with newly arriving people from other countries. I'm gonna try not to say the word immigrant too much, just because I don't want to trigger algorithms, because the again, there's censorship out here. Those alliances, especially with the Latino community, did not and do not exist. The Latino community firmly denies that such alliances exist, and it takes little analysis to determine that any alliances Black leaders presume are one-sided. Again, like the little kid on the little bus. You think they're laughing with you, they're laughing at you. Black leaders even support policies that benefit immigrant groups at the expense of Black people. Many Black leaders, for instance, support increased immigration, but immigrant groups such as Hispanics, Asians, and Arabs do not commit to or give support to any Black issues. There is no reciprocity, and immigrant advocate groups not only do not represent the interests of Blacks, the very purpose of their advocacy is in outright opposition to Black interests. Why is it that after all these years, leading Blacks cannot recognize circumstances that are harmful to their own people? Why is it that the people permit those whom they have accepted as leaders to continue doing them harm? So he says here, so the next question is question 53. How do immigration policies specifically injure Native Black Americans? So this is a good conversation to have in terms of if someone asks you, like, well, why do you have this issue with wide open borders or whatever? Well, let's see what Dr. Anderson has to say. He says, throughout the history of North America, waves of I'm going to say people from other countries have entered the country to take advantage of the considerable economic opportunities extended to them and to enjoy the elevated status, respect, and privileges they automatically receive over Blacks in the labor force. Since the Black descendants of slaves are not immigrants, they are excluded from the privileged status, benefits, and rights extended to people from other countries and must compete with every person from another country for basic rights and life resources. Immigrants and Blacks compete for space, rights, economics, and privileges. Reaching America has been a dream come true for people from other countries, but it has been a nightmare for many Native Blacks and their forefathers. Space. Although a growing number of legal and illegal immigrants are located in the suburbs, most immigrants find residential and commercial space in urban areas. Once they establish a toehold in the urban centers, they then mark and close the space using their language, culture, or religion as barriers to encroachment. Within the confines of their closed communities, they concentrate their resources and build socioeconomic enclaves or niches. Immigrant niches can be found in most urban areas like Detroit, Miami, LA, Philadelphia, New York, DC, San Francisco, and Chicago. After closing their territories, they mark them for their own cultural image, such as Koreatown, Chinatown, Frenchtown, Japantown, Little Cuba, Greektown, and Mexicantown. As their numbers grow, they spread out and gentrify the Black areas, such as Harlem in New York City, Overtown, Liberty City, and Coconut Grove in Miami, Inglewood, Compton, and Watts in the LA area, and Sweet Auburn in Atlanta. Has anybody seen any of this? Let me know if you've noticed any of this in your communities. Anybody seen any of that? All these formerly Black dominated cities are now occupied predominantly by Hispanic immigrants. Interesting. Numerical displacement means diminished economic and political influence by Blacks in mainstream society. Since 1900, this is interesting. Pay attention now. Listen up. Since 1900, the Hispanic population increased from 100,000 to 55 million in 2016. They have surpassed and made Black Americans a minority. Hispanics boast that they are now the nation's new majority minority and will gentrify urban residential areas along with whites and Asians, displacing blacks. And that's what a lot of people in Chicago are protesting right now. They're very, very upset about this. The economic impact. Okay, so the economic impact of immigrants on Native Black Americans is quantifiable. For every 10%, now this is, listen to this now, for every 10% increase in the number of immigrants, Native Black income is reduced by 0.3%. Blacks had an earnings ratio of 56 cents to every dollar earned by whites in the 1950s. Because of the Black Civil Rights Movement in the 1970s, Blacks' earnings ratio rose to 66% of every dollar earned by whites. So he went from 56 to 66. However, between 1970 and 1990, there was a 300% increase in the number of legal and illegal Asians and Hispanics that entered the country, and the ratio of blacks' earnings to white earnings dropped from 66% to 57%, where it was nearly 40 years earlier. So in 40 years, no progress in that earnings gap. Give me a yes if you follow that, if you understand what I said there. So what he's basically saying is that you are making progress when you have policies like affirmative action that were specifically designed to close the racial wealth gap, specifically designed to address grievances that were grievances that were done to you, right? But then when everything started to dilute, when other people started to jump in and grab your benefits, your income ratio went down again. So this is what he's saying here. In short, the 9-point economic gains due to the Black Civil Rights Movement were wiped out by the 300% increase in immigration population that occurred between 1970 and 1990. Employment, whether the job and this is where we talk about black jobs, whether the job categories are skilled or unskilled, this nation has a long history of displacing blacks to make employment opportunities for other people. According to a U.S. Department of Commerce survey conducted in 1865, over 100,000 of the nation's 120,000 skilled artisans were Black Americans newly freed from slavery. What? Damn. Did y'all hear that? Let me read it again. This is interesting. According to a U.S. Department of Commerce survey conducted in 1865, over 100,000 of the nation's 120,000 skilled artisans were Black Americans newly freed from slavery. This is when we had trade, y'all. This is when we had skill. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on. Let's do an economic consciousness exercise. Are our kids coming out with skill now? Coming out of high school? Are the majority of our children coming out of school knowing how to do anything? Knowing how to, I don't know, paint things, build things, carpenters, bricklayers, plumbers, electricians, welders. Are they getting any of these trades coming out of school? I mean, I'm gonna just tell you like this, in my opinion, we should be ashamed of ourselves. We really should be ashamed. We should be absolutely ashamed that that people 100 years ago had more skill than we have right now with our bougie asses, our high tech, internet having asses, all these opportunities we supposedly have, all this progress we claim to have made, but our children have less skill than the children had 100 years ago. That's downright shameful. I'm very sorry. That's downright shameful. So anyway, let me keep going here. All right. So let's see here. During the same time that 100,000 of the 120,000 skilled artisans were Black Americans right after slavery, during the same time, 55 to 65% of all Southern farmers were Black and former slaves. Instead of Lincoln's administration mainstreaming the 5 million former slaves, he and his administration chose to enact immigration reform that attracted 26 million Europeans into the country to replace Black farmers and artisans. Initially, newly arriving immigrants replaced Northern native Blacks in the lowest paying and dirtiest jobs. Later waves of immigrants replaced native Blacks in the South as well as the North in skilled trades, artisan crafts, and agricultural-based occupations. For those who would argue that immigrants did not displace Black Americans in jobs and employment opportunities, why are so many of the jobs that Blacks used to hold in hotels, retail sales, restaurants, airports, trash collection, banks, and other local businesses and all levels of government now staffed by Hispanics, Arabs, and other ethnic groups? Many Blacks were displaced by immigrants in business and public offices because they could not speak Spanish or other languages. The actual hidden or structural unemployment rate for Black Americans is nearly 50%. According to a report from the Center for Immigration Studies, matters were made worse between 2006 and 2016 when approximately 50% of all new jobs went to Hispanics. Where's the economic justice for Black Americans? And the scary, interesting part about this is that he's talking about 2016. He's not even, he doesn't, when he wrote this, he didn't even know about the wide open borders we have right now. He didn't know that we were bringing in 2 million people a month or something crazy like that. Just wide open, literally people climbing through the fence. Like that's very interesting. And what that speaks to is that the future is coming and it does not look bright if your goal is to sort of live off this integrationist dream of sort of like getting the same jobs that your parents would have gotten. I don't think the future looks good for that. I think that specific skills, specific wealth building strategies, specific economic survival methods are absolutely essential for anybody that wants to survive this new economy. And I haven't even talked about AI. AI, if we have, I don't know, 50 million immigrants that come through a fence in the southern border, well, AI is like bringing in a billion new immigrants. Like AI is everywhere. AI is going to be all over the place. So you really have to adjust to this new economy. And if you just simply, live as a sheep and do what you're told and just follow whatever they're telling you to do, you're probably going to get displaced. We're already being replaced when it comes to voting and stuff like that. I'm convinced of that. I think that the whole idea that a lot of Black people aren't automatically voting blue no matter who is leading them to say, okay, well, we got to get new voters to replace Black people, especially Black men. You've got these troublesome Black men out here who are questioning Democratic Party politics. So we're just going to get rid of them. We're just going to deal with something that's easier to deal with. And so that's happening on the political front. I think on the economic front, it's incredibly important to have a strategy. So the solution is wealth building. The solution is twofold. One, in the Black Business School, for example, we believe every Black child should learn how to start a business before the age of 12. They should have someone should be buying stock from them from the time that they're born. And also, every child should know the difference between ownership and renting. In addition to that, skilled trades are incredibly important. College degrees are nice, but having either a skilled trade or a capital base is typically better. And what I mean by a capital base is just a set of resources that allows you to generate the income that you need in order to pay your bills or to survive financially. I don't think it's very, very safe to send your children into an economy that has proven itself to be racist and has proven itself to marginalize Black people for the last 150 years and just sort of say good luck. I wish you the best. I don't think that they're going to be safe in that situation. So that's a solution. The solutions are out there. I personally think we need infrastructure building. We need investment. Job seeking, chasing down those few little Black jobs that they decide they want to give you is not going to get you to where you want to be, typically. Okay, so let's keep going here. It certainly is not a solution for 40 million people. All right, so let's read here. We're on page 163 of the Black History Reader, which you can find at powernomics.com. It says the U.S. Supreme Court's Brown versus Board of Education decision was supposed to have corrected damages inflicted on Black students for more than 400 years of zero schools and poor schools. But before any major educational improvements could be made, the immigration reforms of 1965 brought in a massive influx of immigrant minority children, quote unquote minority children, who began to compete with native Black children for resources. There are no constitutional mandates to giving newly arriving immigrant children legal or illegal, accompanied or unaccompanied educational advantages over Blacks. Prevailing policies and laws, however, give immigrants preferential treatment over Blacks. Another area is affirmative action. Affirmative action programs were originally designed to correct injustices to one race of people, Blacks, by another race of people, whites, and to eliminate the legacies of slavery and Jim Crow segregation. Today, affirmative action programs have been converted into preference programs for immigrants, though most categories of immigrants are white and have never been negatively impacted by the racism and racial conditions that caused these programs to be necessary. This error can be traced to the Immigration and Reform Control Act of 1986, which effectively required employers to treat immigrants exactly like native-born citizens. Since nearly 90% of all immigrants are classified as white on their immigration records and driver's licenses, why aren't immigrants treated like whites and excluded from affirmative action programs? Why are they categorized with Blacks only in the instance of affirmative action? So they don't live the whole Black experience, but when it comes time to benefit from being Black, everybody wants to be Black. But when it's time to really be black and to deal with the struggles of being black, everybody walks out of the room. So he says here, putting apples and oranges in the same categories set up a situation where immigrants of any race displace blacks from the very programs designed to help them. It is not possible to justify including Hispanics, Arabs, Asians, and other immigrants and women who are a majority in affirmative action programs. Yet in 2016, black civil rights leaders, elected officials at the highest levels, and other members of the black overclass publicly supported immigration reform and granting citizenship to 12 to 20 million illegal immigrants that had entered the country since 1990. The black overclass agreed with those who wanted to reach out and invite even millions more immigrants. Our federal and state governments may have reasons to support increased immigration, but they have a moral obligation to avoid and correct the devastating harm it causes Native Black Americans. I'm done. There's nothing else to talk about. Um, I'm irritated. I'm very irritated because you're really in a fight basically. You're really in this fight that you're losing. Collectively, you're losing. But there are solutions, and I think the solutions, I don't see the solutions ever being implemented on a national level. And part of it is because if you go back to the beginning of our conversation where we talked about the BETs of the world, you know, BET, this big white owned company that pretends to be black, that uses black people and sells them and makes billions of dollars doing that. These platforms are not positioned, this overclass is not positioned to do the things that are absolutely essential to really create the sort of um, economic or cultural or educational foundation required for you to truly succeed in this competitive economy. In this society, the more mainstream you are, the more mainstream your ideas are, the more you're relegated to the underclass. Because in the mainstream, there is a presumption that blackness means you're at the bottom. You know, they will always have more sympathy for, I don't know, say a George Floyd situation where a guy gets killed by a cop and everyone feels sorry for a black man. They'll highlight that, but they won't talk about all of the other black men that are just trying to survive economically with their families, or the abuse that happens when men get incarcerated, or what's happening, how our families get broken when you have things like the Biden crime bill where so many men are in prison right now, and all these other variables that are affecting families. I get it. The police shootings are something worth addressing 100%, but that's not really something that is absolutely foundational to the existence and survival of the average black family in America. If you want to look at solutions, here's the deal. I think you have to get rid of the old school black leadership model where you have these civil rights superstars who are, you know, going to be at the Grammys and the Oscars and taking pictures next to the presidential candidates claiming to represent the black community. In almost every single case, none of that ever really works. None of it. I still remember even when President Obama got elected and everybody was so excited about who he was supposed to become for the black community. I was speaking at a church in New York, and on the day he got inaugurated, they changed the words of the song "We Shall Overcome," and they started singing "We Have Overcome." That's what they started singing. And I remember sitting there, I couldn't even sing it. I just kind of moved my lips because I said, I cannot believe we're singing "We Have Overcome." What have you really overcome? Barack overcame a lot for sure. He's president. He should be proud of that. I'm very happy for him. But you ain't overcame nothing. Like what are you getting excited about? And then the same day, I remember a lady came out and she had this real nice picture of Barack Obama. It was like a painting. And I said, "That's a nice painting." And she said, "Absolutely. I just bought it." And she was real excited. She said, "I'm gonna put it up in my living room next to my pictures of Martin Luther King and Jesus." That's what she literally said. She was going to put it up next to Martin Luther King and Jesus, and that was like her inspiration for the day. And I get that. I'm not anti Barack on any level, but I think that you have to kind of know the difference between substance and symbolism. Also, I think you have to know the difference between um, a pseudo solution and an actual solution. I don't think the solutions for the black community typically are going to be mainstream, led by mainstream leaders on national media outlets, because there's too much money being made from your oppression. There are too many people that benefit from controlling you. If you have a pimp and he's making money from his pack of hoes, because that's what we become. We become everybody's hoe except for, we don't benefit ourselves. We become a pack of hoes. That pimp has no incentive to liberate any of the women or any of the hoes, because he maybe got some male hoes too. He has no incentive to do what's best for those individuals, none. So to some extent, black people, we've always been this commodity for other people. We are the perfect consumer because we will buy anything. We are wonderful for the educational system because they make money when your kids are going to these schools and not being properly educated. There are, we also give away so many things for free. We have the best athletes in the world, the best performers, or the most interesting culture. People can package it up like BET and they can sell it and make money from that. And so there are so many people that are positioned properly to extract things from you. So when you're looking, when the pimp, when the prostitute is looking to the pimp to say, how do I become a better person? How do I do more for me? How do I make my life better? All he's going to do is tell her a bunch of lies. So you have this overclass, these pimps that pretty much are, if you let them lie to you, they're going to keep lying to you. If you let them keep telling you like, oh yeah, the best way for black people to move forward is to everybody make sure you vote for the Democrats, and make sure you come to work every day. Make sure you go to school every day. Make sure you go to college and go $200,000 in debt to get a college degree, and that's how you become successful. They're walking you right down the rabbit trap. They're literally saying is we're okay. See, the thing is, people think that there are others who just flat out hate black people. First of all, I don't care if other people like me or not. I assume that they don't care that much about me. If I have a neighbor across the street who has a big Trump flag in his front yard, and I don't hate the guy. I don't like him or dislike him. I don't know if he likes me or not. He has a big pickup truck. He's like a former cop. He could be a black people hating redneck or something. But I don't care. Um, he doesn't care about me. I don't care about him. I don't need him. I don't need him to like me. I just need him to like not bother me, right? So I don't know if there are all these people in the world that just sit around and think how I can, how do I hate black people today? I don't know if there are people out there like that. Maybe there are a few, but I don't think that there are lots of people like that per se. But I do know that if you're talking about people that are going to love you, that has to start with you. And if you talk about people that are going to represent your interests, you have to start with you. And so similar to that prostitute who, everywhere she turns, the pimp is always there explaining the world to her. She's going to have to get her validation from somewhere other than the pimp. She's going to have to get her advice from somewhere other than the individual who has a direct incentive to exploit her. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this whole system's designed to benefit from you, to extract things from you. That's just how it's built. So in order for you to find your solution, you're gonna kind of have to wiggle out of that. You're gonna have to spend some time alone and really look at your life, look at your family, look at your situation, look at your goals, and come up internally with the solutions that are gonna liberate you and get you to where you want to go. And you have to know that some of those solutions are gonna cause you to lose favor with your master. If I go, for example, when I go and when I started saying to black people, look, I don't think you have to vote for Democrats or Republicans. I think you should do what's best for you. A lot of people got real mad at me. And I was like, why are you mad at me? They're like, because you're telling black people not to vote. I said, I never told black people not to vote. You're telling black people to become Trump supporters. I never told black people to become Trump supporters. I told them to do what's best for themselves. Why is that such a threat to you? Why is that so bad for you? Well, oh, I get it, because you have a direct interest and you benefit directly from the control and the management of black people. So you don't really have leaders. Leaders are people that lead you to a better life. Leaders are people who improve your situation. You don't have leaders, you have managers. Managers are people whose job it is to keep you in a nice little collective bucket so they can serve you up to the next person that wants to exploit you. They can pass you around. Like Diddy did with some of his victims. Shout out to poor Justin Bieber. I wonder if that's what happened to him. I'm not gonna say one way or the other, but that poor guy, he'd been through something, right? So really, the thing is, I think we have to know the difference between people that want to serve the black community versus those who want to sell the black community. That's what you have. So in every election, you have these political bosses who go into, the office typically of the Democrats and sometimes the Republicans too, and they say, I can deliver black votes. How much you gonna pay me to deliver black people? And then their job is to deliver. And if they don't deliver, then their bosses say, I'm not going to compensate you because you didn't deliver black people the way you're supposed to. Just like a farmer delivering chickens to KFC. You are a commodity. You are a commodity. And I could keep going to other analogies, but I'm not going to keep on dragging this on and on. But I want you to really understand that. So, in order for, if you have a prostitute who wants to do what's best for himself or herself, she cannot go to the pimp to get guidance or advice on any level. If you are a chicken and on a farm and all your friends are being fattened up so they can be sold to KFC, you can't go to the farmer and say, what should I do next with my life? What does it mean for me to be a good person? You can't do that. You have to figure that out internally and know that at some point your interests and the farmer's interests are going to just be different. So your interest, so when you start to become economically independent, an economically independent black community or an economically independent black family is at the very least a family where that family benefits as much or more from its own labor, skills, and resources and intellectual capital than anybody else, right? So economically independent, let's draw a picture of that. What does that look like? Well, if I've got a family and there are five of us in the family and we all work 40 hours a week, and traditionally we all go out and we find some white guy to work for. You go work for Ford, you go work for GM, you go work for Walgreens or whatever. We're all giving our 40 hours a week to this broader system that's owned and controlled by other people. So we're pouring into the wealth of other people. And then after we get all our money, we go shopping to pour into the wealth of the people who own the mall. And then after that, we also pay the landlord. So we're pouring into the landlord's wealth. So you're draining yourself by making sure that everyone else is good, making sure that everyone else is well taken care of, because they've trained you to believe that that's what you do in order to be a good citizen. Well, an economically independent family, in my opinion, if you want a direct solution, is a family that says, how do we sort of shift the system a little bit where those benefits, at least a portion of those benefits, are coming to us too? How do I create a win-win with this economy instead of the win-lose that we were raised on? See, you were raised on a win-lose in this economy. And the win-lose means this. It means that you have millions of people in the black community who work hard every day, went to school, who have been very responsible, law-abiding citizens who have not broken any laws, raised their families properly, worked their butts off for 40 or 50 years, and are dying with a negative net worth, and somehow you feel screwed and you don't know why. You're trying to figure out, you're like, something isn't right, and I just don't know. Like, how is it that I did everything the way I was supposed to do it, but everybody was winning except for me? Well, that's because you got to really go back and question the assumptions of the game that you're playing. You have to sort of figure out, like, what does that look like for me to pour 40 hours of labor into something that's going to benefit me and the people that I care about, as opposed to pouring 40 hours into something that's not going to give me any benefits? What does it look like for me to spend money on a product that's where the part of that money is going to accrue to either myself or people that are in my space, versus me spending money in a place where those financial benefits aren't coming back at all? Do you understand? You have to think about these things. Critical thinking is essential for anybody that wants to deal with all this. You are going into, in my view, the most complicated economy and society that we've ever had. We've never had an economy, for sure, in American history that's more complicated than the one you're entering into now. You've got illegal immigration over here. You've got corrupt politicians and the failing government over there. You've got artificial intelligence back there. You're going to have to think. You're really going to have to think. And to me, what does that mean? Well, that heightens the importance of little things like the family meeting. Maybe we sit down together as a family and say, how are we going to help each other out? How are we going to make sure everybody in here is good? I've got an extra X number of hours per week that I'm going to put toward one of my goals. How do I do it in a way where I'm winning and you're winning? What partnerships can we come up with that allow us to bring our energy together, as opposed to dividing and diluting our energy by all of us just going out here chasing the black job? Right? Do you understand? That's what we all do that. A lot of us traditionally, we just do that. It's like, you got three siblings, all of you are hardworking, smart people, but all of y'all are running off trying to go get some degree and go work for some white man somewhere when you could be working with each other. What is it about white folks in creating businesses and institutions that makes us believe that they're the only ones who can do it? Asian people do it, Arab people do it, Jewish people do it, white people do it. We can do it too. And we are doing it, by the way. So shout out to those of you who are trying. And I just want you to understand that you're gonna fail. It's not gonna be perfect. It's not going to always make sense. It's going to be hard, but it's better than the other version of hard, which is where you work your butt off for 50 years and then you die broke, or you die with a net worth that is much lower than what it should be, or you find out that the people that you've been pouring into your whole life are all getting rich every time you're making that car note payment. The car dealer's getting rich. You pay your rent, the landlord's getting rich. You go to work, your boss is getting rich. What about you? Where are you getting rich in this process? And if you can't see where you're getting rich, where you're at least getting a piece of the benefits of all the things that God has blessed you with, then that means you playing the wrong game, partner. You in the wrong system. You got to fix it, buddy. You got to look around, elevate your consciousness. Consciousness is critical. So again, I want to reiterate, I am not here telling you what to do. When I talk like this, I know that there are people who get mad at me and they think that I'm out here just misleading people and all. I'm not telling you nothing about what you need to do next. What I want to be able to help you do is I want to help heighten your consciousness to the point where when you decide what you're going to do next, it's the right move for you and those kids that you got. It's the right move for your family. I think every parent, some of y'all in here are parents like me. I'm a parent, and my number one goal as a parent is to make sure my kids, I'm not raising no goddamn slaves. I'm not. I'm not raising, I'm not raising anybody's servant. I'm just not doing that. I want them, maybe they can serve humanity or something, do good things in the world. I want that, but I'm not raising, I don't want children that were raised under me to go out into the world and be miserable, broke, struggling, selling stuff that they shouldn't be selling just to go pay the rent. I don't want them in that situation. So I think, just something as basic as like loving yourself and loving your kids means that maybe it's worth sort of reconsidering the things that you were told, because a lot of things that they tell you are just wrong. And here's the thing about, and this is the last point I'm gonna make on this about capitalism, the dark side of capitalism, is that they're not just doing this to black people. They're not just doing this to you. They're doing this to everybody. The capitalist system, it harms pretty much everybody, right? Anybody that's in the working class is pretty much getting screwed in America right now. I want to make that clear. So you're not the only ones, but it tends to happen worse to black people because we are so vulnerable. Do you understand? So effectively, when you're in that situation, I think it's important to at least start the conversation by realizing we don't have any friends, we don't have any true allies. Because if you were really an ally, you'd be fighting for us to get that 14 trillion in reparations. But from what I understand about money and power, people don't give those things away easily. So I hope that this discussion was beneficial to you. That's what I'm seeing. I thank God for Dr. Claude Anderson for explaining the truth behind the historical immigration policies and what that does to us. I'm not telling you that you have to agree with him. Maybe he's wrong about things. I'm not going to say that he's right about everything, but this is another perspective for you to consider. Okay. All right. So anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. Tomorrow morning, we're going to meet for a financial consciousness training. If you want to join us, we meet every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. It's 100% free to join the live session. So if you want to get an invite, you can text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. Text morning to 87948. And also, if you live in another country and you can't text the word morning, just go to drboyceelevate.com. That's drboyceelevate.com. I'll send you an invitation, and we're going to meet tomorrow morning because I want your economic consciousness on 10. That when you have that heightened awareness, you just understand things better and you can get more out of life that you want without sort of hoping that somebody eventually gives you things that people just don't give away. Nobody gives away money and power. You got to learn how to take it. All right. So let's see. Where can you hear the recording? Well, this particular recording, I am streaming on my YouTube channel, which is drboycetv.com. If you want all of the trainings that we've done in this class, we've probably done 200 or 300 by now. You can actually go to drboycebookclub.com, or I think Amani's in the chat. Maybe Amani, if you have the link, you can share the link where if you want to just go get them all and you can share them with your family. There we go. Amani put the link in the chat. So feel free to take a look at that, and all of that's in there. And in addition to that, if you want to get a copy of my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, you can go to drboycebooks.com. drboycebooks.com. That's drboycebooks.com. And use the code word book club, all one word. You get 30% off. All right, guys. Well, have a good night. God bless you. It was great to see you. And hopefully I'll see you guys in the morning for consciousness training. And I wish you the best. So let's educate ourselves. Let's be great. Let's make Black people great again. I'm kidding. We've always been great. We never stop being great. It's other people who got to be great again. I don't know about y'all, but I think most of y'all in here have been kicking ass for many years. So everybody ain't losing. So hey, what's going on, guys? What's going on? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I wanted to come in and say hi to everybody. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I wanted to come in and talk about this term Black jobs. I heard Donald Trump mention Black jobs the other day during the debate, and I've seen a lot of reactions to that term. I didn't know exactly what he meant by Black jobs. I thought it was kind of a strange way to describe an economic situation. And I thought that as a person who studied finance for a while, that I would jump in on this discussion. In case you don't know my background, my doctorate's in finance. I taught at Syracuse University for 13 years on the finance faculty. So money and economic issues in the Black community is my number one concern. Now, before I get started, though, could you guys give me a quick yes in the chat if you can hear me? Let me know really quickly if you can hear me. Give me a quick yes. Shout out the city you're from. Just let me know that I'm coming through okay. I'm in a hotel, and the hotel Wi-Fi is usually pretty crappy. And I'm also being a dance dad this weekend, so it's kind of kept me from being able to connect with you guys the way that I want to. I know that you guys know every single morning we do Money in the Morning, where we teach the art of economic elevation. And it's a free class for anybody, and there are thousands of you have signed up. And I want thousands more of you to just know that there is a finance professor out here that's willing to talk to you every single day, that wants you to be the best you can be economically. So when Trump uses the term Black jobs, y'all know I'm on the job. I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and provide some perspective. So I want to say hi really quickly to Yoshika, and I see Coach Bettis. Good to see you, brother. It makes you think about Jerome Bettis, the great football player. Keith Patillo from the Patillo family. I know the Patillo family, and let me tell you, that is Black excellence just in progress, in motion. I love when I see families that are on top of their game. So what's up? And also, what's up, Rodney from St. Louis, and Gino. Good to see everybody. Heather Elliott from Raleigh, North Carolina. Good to see you. All right, so let me hop in. How many of you, give me a yes or no if you saw Trump's debate? How many of you watched the debate the other day where Trump and Biden went up there, and it kind of became just, kind of a shit show, kind of what you expect. You got a couple of pretty immature guys up there. One guy looks a little bit too old to be president. The other guy is a little too arrogant to be president. I think Trump could be a textbook narcissist. I believe that's why he got along so well with Kanye West. I've told you all about the time Kanye called me, and we talked for about 10 hours over a 4-day period. And I was trying to sort of get through to him, and it was very, very difficult because he kind of lives in his own little world. And it became so frustrating that my wife just said, I don't know if this is good for you, your stress levels. And I tell you, it's not fun. It's not fun to talk to people who just are out of touch. And I'm gonna tell you, Donald Trump is not. I've never thought of him as a good person. He's not if you believe he's unethical, then you're probably right. Anybody who's been in the boxing industry, hung out with Russian gangsters and done business with people like Don King and Al Sharpton his whole career, you know that there's something going on there, something that's not on the up and up. But I want to say this clearly though too. I don't blame you for whoever you want to vote for. I want to make that clear too, because I have big issues with Biden. If you remember, Biden incarcerated more Black men than any president in American history, other than the ones during slavery. I don't even know if there were slave presidents that sent more Black men to prison than Biden did. He called y'all super predators. This man, there are men and women in prison right now, people in prison right now today that were locked up in the 90s under Biden's 3 strikes laws. And y'all want to walk around here tap dancing, acting like it's okay. No, it ain't okay. I don't get that. I don't get the low self-esteem or the fear where we have so much fear that we'll just let people just scare us into voting for whoever. I don't do that. That's just not what I believe in. But you could do what you want to do. If you want to pick the lesser of two evils, I'm not going to knock you for that. I'm just not a fan of that. But anyway, guys, so I don't have a ton of time. My wife and I are going to be leaving pretty soon, but I wanted to kind of talk about this whole Black jobs thing. All right, so so let's kind of break this down real quick. When I heard the term, I didn't think much of it at the time, but then I saw the internet kind of reacted to it. And as you know, Black unemployment has been a trigger topic, an important discussion talking point for many, many years. During the Obama administration, black unemployment was something that was discussed almost every single week. At that time, I was talking a lot about black unemployment also, because if you recall, Obama said something back a long time ago about the rising tide will lift all boats. Which is basically kind of like this false integrationist narrative that says that if we help everybody, if we help white people, then that's going to naturally help black people too. And the Democratic Party's kind of run with that. I think Obama set the precedent for them to say, "Hey, we're doing these things for all these other people," and given that black people fit in these categories with these other people, they're going to be helped too. Like so, when Biden brought up black economics, he said, "We're passing laws to help mothers with childcare costs, and there are many black mothers. Therefore, black people are benefiting from what we did for mothers." And that's a lazy way to address the racial wealth gap. That is a racist way to address the racial wealth gap. And let me explain why. What you're basically doing is you're saying, hey, we're not going to do anything specific to help the black community. We're going to do things for everybody and then talk about how black people benefit too. Right? It's not like somebody giving you a ride. If I say I need a ride to a specific location, and then I say, well, we're going out west anyway, so why don't you pick a different location and we'll give you a ride there? I'm not gonna give you a ride specifically because you need a ride or specifically to the place you want to go. I'm going to just take you where I was already gonna go and then take credit for giving you a ride in addition to everybody else. That's very different from me saying, I'm going to specifically give you a ride to specifically go where you want to go. And this is what black people are dealing with. You specifically were targeted for an unbelievable amount of racism for 200 and something years. More than that, actually, 400 years. You were specifically targeted because of the color of your skin. They specifically robbed you of your economics. They specifically enslaved you. They weren't enslaving single moms. They weren't enslaving gay people. They were enslaving black people. We know these things. So they were specifically targeting you for all this racial abuse you've experienced. So you should be given a specific remedy. And the Democrats want to avoid the specific remedies. And that's the problem that you have on the Democrat side. Now, because I've got, I hope my wife will let me have 10 minutes to do this conversation, because I want to dig into this black jobs thing a little bit. And as I move on, do me a favor. Could you please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And just as an FYI, I have a new book out. It's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. Simple rules that if any family follows these rules, they will have a massive amount of generational wealth in less than 10 to 20 years. So if you want to take a look at that book, just feel free to go to drboycebooks.com. And also my wife is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work, Dr. Alicia Watkins. And she also has workbooks on things like financial anxiety and dealing with financial trauma and ways that you can overcome. These are called solutions. I know we're not used to solutions, but that's what we talk about in the Black Business School. So feel free to go to drboycebooks.com. All right. So here's the deal. So Trump uses this term black jobs. And everyone kind of, gets in a tizzy about it. And again, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. And I thought about this term. I said, what does that mean? What the hell is a black job? I don't know what that means. I felt the way a lot of people felt. I had to meditate on it. I had to sit back and literally look into the universe and talk to God and say, what the hell? What's a black job? Is it a job that is black? Is it a job that's just for black people? Is it a job that's occupied by a black person? And so I thought about it. And so here are my interpretations of the term black jobs. First off, a term's definition can change based on who's actually saying it. That's the first thing. It's based on perspective. As you guys know, when you come to financial consciousness training every morning, I talk to you all about perspective and also just kind of being able to empathize and see the world from different points of view. Okay. And so here's the deal. The term black jobs does not mean the same to everybody. The definition changes based on who's saying it. It also changes based on the perspective of the individual who is saying it. So let me break that down further. So it's almost like the N word, right? Like I hear a lot of people explaining that when a black person says the N word, it's different from when a white person says the N word. But when a white person says the N word, that might be different from when a white racist white person says the N word. And even when a black person says the N word, that's different from an angry black person saying the N word. Let me know if you're following this. Right? If I say, "What's up, my nigga?" That's different from me saying, "Get out of my face, nigga."
right? That's two different, the same guy, same race, it just means different things. If a white guy says it, you got the wiggers, the wiggers, the white guys who think they're black. If they say the N word, they're trying to be cool. They're trying to fit in. They're quoting words from their favorite rap songs. But if a hillbilly from the South says the word "igger," if they say it, then you know that might mean that they're really trying to say something negative about black people. Let me know if you know what I'm talking about, because I'm from the South, so I kind of hear them country accents. So if you hear a racist person, if you hear a country music singer use the word, it's gonna have a different interpretation. You know what I mean? Y'all get what I'm saying? Y'all let me know if you get what I'm saying right there about that. Okay. All right. So let's get back to it. Okay, so black jobs, and I'm saying this as an economist who cares deeply about black jobs. It means different things from different people based on different interpretations, different situations. Okay, so when Donald Trump says black jobs, I can't tell you exactly what that means. I cannot go into that man's mind. What I am going to guess is that there are a couple ways to look at it. The worst interpretation of the term black jobs could be this. It could be that, there are certain jobs in society that are typically occupied by black people that most other people do not take, right? Just like there might be immigrant jobs or rich white people jobs, right? If you think about the job, if someone is wealthy and white and they say, my son got an internship this summer, okay, this is a rich white people job. So that's going to be maybe they're working at Goldman Sachs, or they're doing something with some exclusive bank and working with wealthy clients or whatever, right? Whereas when I was in high school, the type of jobs I had were like restaurant jobs, and also on top of that, the black men did not get the nice jobs like the white girls. The white girls would get to work out front. They would get to work the cash register and all that stuff. They didn't trust me with the money. They had me in the back washing dishes. That was my version of my black job. So there is a belief that there are certain jobs that black people tend to acquire or tend to be allowed to take that other people don't take. And you guys know, if you've been following this platform for even 30 seconds, you'll know that I've explained that part of the reason that you get locked into so-called black jobs is because you fell for this fairy tale of a myth called integration. You fell for this false belief that by selling your black-owned businesses, giving up all of your banks, giving up your insurance companies, giving up your institutions, giving up black-owned schools, giving up black-owned bus companies, whatever the case may be, you believe that by giving up all your businesses and going to work for institutions owned by your oppressor, that somehow that would lead you to have a better life. Tell me if I'm lying. Tell me if I'm lying. All these Negroes sitting there complaining about how racist the NFL is, or how the NBA hired a white boy to coach the Lakers when there are qualified black men like Sam Cassell who could have taken the job. They're in the same tradition of the poor people who forget that we used to own the Negro leagues. We used to have a professional sports league. We used to own all of that. But when you don't own the house, you don't get to pick the color of the bedroom. When it ain't your house, you don't make the rules in another man's house. That is a simple rule of the universe that we forgot because somehow they socially engineered us to be a pack of punks. They socially engineered us to be weak and scared and submissive, and I'm not part of that clique. So in this society, if you want to know, are there black jobs versus white jobs? Hell yeah, there are. Because you burned down your own house so you could become roommates with massa. That's what you did. When you got all caught up in the whole civil rights, we shall overcome. And we celebrated the idea of a black man getting his head bashed in so that he could just have the privilege of spending his money at a white-owned business. What the hell is it? We didn't define it for what it was. We didn't call it for what it was. A mental illness. It is an absolute mental illness when I'm going to let another man beat me to within an inch of my life just so I can have an opportunity to give him my money. That ain't customer service, people. That's not customer service. So what I'm saying to you is that in this economy, you're right. There are black jobs. There are jobs that that black people tend to get that white people that white people don't want. If I go to Google and if I'm a black man and I want to go to Google and become an engineer, they're like, no, sorry, sir. They're not gonna say it. They're just gonna show you this. So they're gonna say, no, sir, that's not a black job. But if you came in and you want to rap at our annual Christmas party, oh, that's a black job. You know, I bet you if you go to Google and you have a meeting of all their senior engineers, I bet you there might only be one black guy in the room. Out of 300, there'll be one black guy and a bunch of white people, Asians, and Indians. Tell me if I am lying. Tell me if I'm lying. So senior engineer at Google, unfortunately, is not typically a black job. That's just the reality. But you know, rapper, basketball player, stripper, you know, those could be black jobs. You know, you look at hip hop, you look at what they did to hip hop, how they got all the now the most popular female hip hop artists in the world, Lotto, Megan the Stallion, the other one, I can't remember all of them, but Ice Spice, whoever, they're all pretty much strippers. They're just strippers who know how to rap. So basically, that's a black job. Taylor Swift ain't twerking when she goes. Taylor Swift can make $1 billion without shaking her ass one time. Not at least not in a way that's overly sexual. She doesn't have to do all that. She just gets to sing. That's a white privilege. She's got a white job. Megan the Stallion has a black job. If Taylor Swift tried to do what Megan the Stallion does, not only could she not do it, but she would not be accepted. If Megan the Stallion decided she wanted to be the next Taylor Swift, they would say, no, Negro, sorry, that's not a black job. So there are in a racist society, which America is, in so-called fake in the space of false integration, you have black jobs and you do have white jobs. That's the reality. Now, whether or not Trump was referring to this when he spoke, I have no idea. I can't get in that man's head. He's a little weird. I don't know what he's thinking. But that's what I hear when I hear the term black jobs. Now, let's move on to another interpretation. Before I do that, if you could, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And I want to remind you guys, if you want to join us for our morning, we do Money in the Morning financial consciousness training. It's a class that's 100% free. It's 7 days a week. Every morning, it's at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you want to join us for free, text the word morning to the number 87948. Just text morning to 87948. Or you can also go to drboyceelevate.com if you live in another country. I could not make it this morning, guys. I apologize. My daughter is in the big dance. She's at the Dance Nationals. And on Saturday, they do the big showdown. And so she had 2 dance routines this morning. One of them was precisely at the time of our class. So that's why I had to send you guys a text to let you guys know I couldn't make it. But y'all know that if on any other day, I'm going to be right there with you. Because I think that economic elevation is critical for us to understand how we're being screwed economically. Economic elevation is critical for us to understand why white people have all the wealth and we don't. Economic elevation is critical for us to understand why black wealth continues to go down as white wealth is going up. Think about it. You work harder than everybody else. A lot of y'all are going to school. A lot of y'all are doing all the right things. You're going to work. You're not breaking the law. You're doing everything right, but yet your wealth is going down. How in the hell is that happening? How's that happening? Well, I'm going to dare jump in and say, I'm going to put on my finance professor hat and say that it's happening because our economic consciousness is not very high. They are literally they're pickpocketing you. Like when I was in Paris one time, these little white girls came up to me, 3 of them, and they were talking to me about this petition. And they were trying to get me to look at this petition. They were like, we're trying to do a petition for the blah, 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 blah. And as the girl's talking to me, and she's telling me about this petition, another lady comes up, and another lady's like, she starts yelling and screaming in French. She's like, I don't know, I don't know if I failed French class, but it's like, avec moi, ce soir. Maybe that wasn't what she was saying, but she was yelling at the other girls. I did not understand why she was yelling at them. She was screaming and hollering, and the girls started yelling back, and it became like this big old fight. It was like French white women fighting around me, and I was just standing there, right? So let me tell you what was going on. So the lady then explained to me why she was yelling. She said, while they had your attention, they were pickpocketing you. I said, they were? I said, they can't do that to me. Dude, I'm from the hood. What you talking about? You ain't no white woman gonna pickpocket me. Not me, right? And so literally that's what was going on. So there's a point to this, I promise you. So here's the point. Sometimes there are people who want to extract things from you, who will distract you. They will steal your consciousness. They will get you to be conscious of one thing and be unconscious about another thing. And all the while, they'll be pickpocketing you. So my argument, and I hope that you'll hear this, let me know if you're getting what I'm saying, is that Black wealth is being pickpocketed from our people, from our community, because our economic consciousness is not where it needs to be. So when somebody says a term Black jobs, and all we can do is sit there and get mad because we don't understand what a Black job is, or we think it's racist to say Black jobs, I really think that you want to go deeper than that. That's my point. I really think you want to go deeper than just, oh man, because they said Black jobs. Because seriously, if you're caught up in the Democrat Republican nonsense, that means that if you're a Democrat, you're only mad about the term Black jobs because Trump said it. You wouldn't be mad if Biden had said it, because Lord knows Biden was mumbling a whole bunch of other shit up there because that man is too old to be president, and you know it. Right. And if Biden has said Black jobs, the Democrats wouldn't be mad. And the Republicans would be the ones saying, oh, see, they're racist. They said the term Black jobs. Right. So get away from the Democrat Republican stuff, because that's all silly. So let me kind of give you another interpretation of the term Black jobs. So that first interpretation could be that there are certain jobs that are for Black people and other jobs that are not for people who are not Black. Like I mentioned, like me being a dishwasher, when I worked at the Hungry Pelican restaurant when I was 14 years old, that was a Black job. That was the kind of job the Black guys got. I didn't get to be a host to greet the customers. I didn't get to run the cash register because that was not a Black job. Another interpretation of the Black job term could be jobs that are just possessed by Black people. So if I say Black jobs, and my goal is not to be racist toward my own people, that will make me a weirdo. If I say the term Black jobs, what I would be referring to is all the jobs in our society that are controlled by Black people right now. So being a bus driver could be a Black job if a Black man has that job. Being a surgeon could be a Black job if a Black woman has that job. Being a nurse could be a Black job if a Black man has that job. Being a hostess at a restaurant can be a Black job, right? So any job owned or possessed by a Black person, because you don't own your job, by the way, your boss owns your job. Let's make sure you're clear about that. You're renting your job, or you're renting yourself to the job, however you want to look at it, but that's not yours, right? So when you die at your desk because they worked you into an early grave, they're going to replace you within a week and forget that you were ever there. So just make sure you understand that you don't own the job. You can't pass the job to your children. The best thing you can do for your children is put in a good word for the child and hopefully get the boss to draft your child, just like Bronny James got drafted by the Lakers because their father had put in years of good service for the company. All right. So whereas the owner of the Lakers doesn't have to ask anybody's permission if he wants to draft his son, when the owner of the Lakers drafted his children to come and work for the organization, he didn't have to ask for shit. He didn't have to go ask for anybody's permission. He didn't have to hope that the boss decided that he did a good enough job, that he's going to put in a good word for him and he's going to give him an opportunity. No, the owner of the Lakers, Jerry Buss, I believe that was his name. The owner of the Lakers, when he wanted to hire his children, he said, I'm hiring my children, right? So this is why, if you want to know why I'm a big advocate for Black-owned businesses, because I need you to know the difference between having a good business and having a good job. A lot of us will put a ton of energy into getting a good job and keeping a good job, but we won't put the same amount of energy into starting a good business and building a good business and keeping a good business, because that requires too much work. That's the reality. That's what you're dealing with. So when you talk about Black jobs, to me, a Black job is a job that is controlled by a Black person. Now, the immigration point, I think, is worth hearing. Dr. Claude Anderson, the author of Powernomics, the greatest economic thinker of the 20th century and beyond. He's the Black Marcus Garvey of today, or he's the new Marcus Garvey. Marcus was Black too, but he's the modern day Marcus Garvey. He says repeatedly in his books, and he wrote this in the early 90s, he said that immigration policy has been specifically designed to dilute the economic and political power of the Black community. That there was a time where your numbers were bigger, your economic share of the pie was bigger, your opportunities were bigger, and that is deliberately being undermined because they're bringing so many people in from other countries. And the other thing about immigration policy, and if you come to our Powernomics training, which we do for free in the Black Business School every Wednesday night, you would know that immigration policy was specifically designed based on skin color. So what they said was, they said, look, if you are immigrating from England, we'll take as many British folks as you want to bring. If you're immigrating from Spain, we'll take a ton of those. If you're coming in even from Mexico and South America, we'll take a ton of those. But if you're coming from Africa, wait, what? Nah, we don't want no Africans. Y'all need to stay over there, right? So because they said we don't need more black people, we need fewer black people. We don't need the Kool-Aid to be stronger. We need to water it down. You understand? They said we need the black community to be smaller, not bigger, because we're already afraid of these people. They're already doing major damage just by having 13% of the population. We don't want them to have 30% like they used to, because that's downright scary. So Dr. Claude Anderson has brought up the point that many of the black jobs, I'm going to use that term. Call me what you want for saying the term black jobs, but you don't know what I'm talking about. Jobs that are controlled by black people. He specifically said that these jobs, these opportunities are getting scooped up by people from other countries because they really don't want to deal with you that much. They really don't. If you don't believe me, let me ask y'all a question. Give me a yes or no if you've ever seen this. Has anybody ever gone into like certain restaurants and noticed that damn near half the damn staff is speaking Spanish? If you go to places like California and other places, you'll know what I'm talking about. Has anybody ever noticed in your neighborhoods, like I see this in Chicago, construction sites where 40 years ago there would have been a bunch of black guys working on the construction project, but there are no black men over there. There are no black people over there. Has anybody noticed that? I know I see it. I see it all the time. I see it all the time. So when you talk about that immigration issue, and you tell me somehow that having an endless flood of people from other countries coming into the U.S. is good for the black community, I'll tell you a damn lie. Y'all should know in Chicago right now, shout out to the black folks in Chicago. Black people in Chicago have been protesting the black mayor like crazy. They have been saying, you are bringing all these people in, giving them resources you never gave us. We've been begging for resources and we can't get a nickel, but you're going to pump millions of dollars into people who just got here. And then you're putting them in our neighborhoods. They're taking up space in our community and getting stuff that we've never got. So that to me is a point worth considering. I don't care who says it. I wish Biden and Trump would say it. But perhaps the reason Trump is gaining leeway in the black community is because he is talking about it. I don't know if he's going to do anything about it, though. I don't know if I don't really think he's going to be an asset to the community. I think that if you want real power, you're going to have to fight for it. If you want real power, you're going to have to plan for it. If you want real power, you're going to have to build for it. If you don't build for it, fight for it, and plan for it, then you will not have it. No politician is going to give that to you. No Democrat's going to deliver that for you. No Republican is going to deliver that for you. Even the independent candidates ain't really going to deliver that for you. You have to deliver that for you. So this is my position. So when you talk about the term black jobs, I would say there's two major ways to look at that. There are jobs that typically black people have more access to in our society. It's a racist society. So there are certain jobs that they don't want you to have. There's certain places they don't want you necessarily being the boss. This is why black-owned businesses are so important, because in my company, every job is a black job. In my organization, I have the ability to engage in whatever amount of nepotism or whatever you want to call it that I want, and I don't have to ask my boss's permission. I don't make as much money as LeBron James, but if I want my child to play on the same team as me, I don't have to go ask Jerry Buss if it's okay for me to do right by my child. I don't have to do that. And so to me, I think that one thing that's missing from our community that we have to really consider is pride. Pride is deeper than money. You can have $0 in your pocket and have $1 billion worth of pride. Pride might mean that you say, you know what, even if I can't build $1 billion company like you, I'm going to build my little $50,000 company and I'm going to make plans to grow it into $1 billion within a generation or two. Your pride means that even if you tell me that the only options I have on this earth are Democrat or Republican, that I can either be treated like a slave or be treated like a super slave, I'm not taking either one of those options because I'm too proud to allow you to get me to live on my knees. Pride means that we embrace the things that we need to embrace in order to build the community that we want. It means that we embrace the educational excellence necessary and the skills appropriate for the building of a community, so that when somebody defines what is a black job and what is a white job, It won't be me hoping that white people agree with me in my interpretation of what a black job should be. That my child will not have to just say, well, mama, I can't get a certain kind of job because, the white man ain't hiring and the white man won't decide that he want to give me an opportunity. See, your children need to be taught to create opportunities. What makes their kids better than your kids? What makes their people better than your people? It's attitude. It is belief in yourself. It is your commitment to developing infrastructure that's going to allow you to be able to shape the narrative that you want your life to have. I get deeply offended by this whole idea that everything that we want to do got to come down to whether or not we can convince white folks that it's the right move to make. I don't want to go. I get, there's a whole industry of these anti-racist speakers that literally all they do is, I'm not making fun of you. If you're in this category, please don't think I'm making fun of you. Keep doing your job. I hope you make $1 billion at it. But one thing they do is they do a job. This is a black job. Here you go. Here's a black job for you. Their black job is to go to all these white universities and talk to crowds full of white people and convince white people to stop being so mean to black people. That's their job. That's a black job. White people can rarely get that job. But then again, if they do take the job, they tend to get treated like superstars. Like that guy, Tim, what's his face? I forgot his name, Tim something. And he goes around and he talks about how terrible white people are and how black people are always perfect and whatever. And they love him for it. Well, that's not a black job I want. My job as a black man is not to convince a white man to like me. My job as a black man is not to convince white people that I'm worthy. My job as a black man is not to convince white folks that I am safe and decent. I know I'm safe and decent. My wife and daughters and my son, they know I'm safe and decent. Y'all know I'm safe and decent. My job is not to go and convince people who have been oppressing me or trying to oppress my people for a very long time. My job is not to convince my oppressor of anything. And one of the things that I think you have to understand is that you will box yourself into a trap if you believe that the only way for black people to have advancement in this society is to convince white people to allow us to have it. If you believe that the only path to liberation for black people is by getting white folks to be nicer to you, then I feel sorry for you, because you're never going to go as far as you want to go. You'll only go as far as they want you to go. And let me tell you like this, I'm not going to just go as far as they want me to go. I'm going to go as far as I decide I'm going to go. Also, I'm going to go as far as God wants me to go. So just like I spoke to you guys the other day, we talked in class and I talked about knowing the difference between your plan, God's plan, and Massa's plan. See, Massa had a plan for you. Massa said, I'm going to give you the black job. Massa said, I'm going to give you the black experience. Massa said, I'm going to give you the black culture. And then you're going to spend your whole life muddled, swimming in the mud, living in the dirt, starting from the bottom. Now you're here. Hoping and praying, stressing out, begging for opportunities, sad when they don't come, like crying and over microaggressions and mistreatment, and constantly feeling bad about life because somebody else is deciding whether you even have the right to be happy. Fuck that. Nobody has the right to decide if you're going to be happy and fulfilled. But that's Massa's plan. I'm going to keep these Negroes in a fishbowl and make sure that I decide what options they're going to have. I decide if they get to have a good day or a bad day. I decide if they're going to be successful or not successful. I decide if they're going to have high self-esteem or low self-esteem. That is nonsense. Who told you that that's the right way to live? That's Massa's plan. And then if you're strong and you have some consciousness about you, you'll say, no, I'm not living by Massa's plan. I'm going to go with my plan. My plan is I'm going to decide what a black job is versus a white job. My plan is I'm going to be successful whether you like it or not. My plan is I'm going to get educated. My plan is I'm going to take care of my family. My plan is I'm going to be economically intelligent. My plan is that I'm going to prepare for the future. My plan is I'm going to build generational wealth. And I think that's a great step forward. Congratulations to all of you who have moved past Massa's plan to get to your plan. But I'm going to take it to another level of consciousness. And I'm going to do this real quick because my wife is waiting for me and she's being very patient. I appreciate that. Shout out to the black women who are patient with crazy black men like me. Without y'all, we can't be nothing. But there's another level to that. And I learned this through time. Remember, I'm 53 years young, so I'm not a kid no more, but I ain't Joe Biden age, but I'm not a kid. So I've learned a few things. So the next level I realize is that even my plan is not adequate. My plan is not the plan. The plan is God's plan. And what I learned through life as I fought my battles with racism, and I think I did okay. Wasn't no white man gonna hold me down. Wasn't nobody gonna make me feel oppressed. I was raised by Larry Watkins. He was a Vietnam veteran and who's killed people. He did not raise me to be no punk. So I ain't scared of racist white folks. I ain't scared of ignorant black folks. Never been scared. Never scared. But here's the thing. So even as I won these battles, I found out that there was a plan that was even bigger for me. I realized that my racial trauma, my experience as a black man growing up in Louisville, Kentucky, like Muhammad Ali, we both grew up in Louisville. My experience led me to even not see what my potential was. Even I didn't know what I was capable of accomplishing. So what happened was I realized, I said, oh my God sees a bigger vision for me than I even see for myself. And so as that vision started to unfold, I started to realize that as much as I know, and I have a lot of education, I went to school a long time. To get a PhD, you got to take damn near every single class at the university. And I got my PhD over 20 something years ago, and I probably know 3 times more than I did when I finished my doctorate. So I've learned a lot. But the biggest thing I learned over time is how little I actually know. The biggest thing I learned over time was that connecting to God and really understanding what the potential was for all of us and knowing what God's plan is, or even trying to understand it or accept it as it unfolds, that's really the key to power. Because the power of God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, that's an infinite kind of power that man cannot control. Man cannot stop that. And I'm not saying this to be religious with you. I don't even go to church, to be honest with you, but I'm very spiritual. So I think that the strength of black people is that we are very spiritual people. And to me, when you allow your spirit to be deflated because you are scared of a racist, you are scared of some ignorant people that don't want to see you fly. To me, that is disconnecting from God. That is you disconnecting from what your purpose is. The greatest strength you have is that you are spiritual, and sometimes you got to operate on faith. That means, what does that mean? Let's translate that to real life. That means that you got to build that business sometimes on faith. Dude, I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna learn as much as I can. I may not succeed, but I'm gonna still go hard. Sometimes you got to move forward based on intuition. You got to say, you know what? I know you're telling me that if this guy gets elected and I don't vote for this person, that bad things are going to happen. But you know what? My instincts are telling me that this is still not the right move for me. So I'm going to still move on faith. Maybe being spiritually strong also means the ability to really try to see a vision for yourself and your family that is not limited by what is you see around you. It's not limited by your past. It's not limited by your condition. It's not limited by what people say you can and cannot do. There is no limit. When you really connect to that God level power, I don't think you can be stopped. So if you want to know who you're listening to every morning when I wake up, I would say you're probably listening to a man of God, but not so much in a way that says I'm perfect, not in a way that says I'm the guy you're going to see sitting next to you in church, but you're really talking to a man who literally every day when I get up and talk to you, I open my mouth and I say, let me see what God tells me to say. And I'm just going to say it, and I'm going to say it without fear. I'm moving forward without fear. And I think that if we move forward without fear, you won't fall for all this Democrat Republican nonsense. You won't get caught up in what a white man has to say about you. You won't feel like your whole destiny and all your potential is put in some sort of bottle that was shaped by your oppressor. You'll know that the sky is the limit for anybody who truly moves forward on faith. So that's what I believe. That's what I think. So when you talk to me about black jobs versus white jobs, there's different ways to talk about that term and what that might mean. And certainly black economics is critically important. But I just encourage you, let go of the low self-esteem, low vibrational thinking. Let go of this whole idea of us operating in fear and operating under the expectation that we're going to be oppressed. Let's move forward by expecting the best of ourselves. Again, every time you get mad because a white man tells you got to take the black job over the white job, the question is you got to say, well, who's creating the damn jobs? Who's the job creator? I don't want to be the job seeker. I want to be the job creator. I don't want my children limited in a world where they believe, well, there's black jobs and there's white jobs. And Mr. Charlie going to decide who gets the black job and who gets the white job because he a Democrat and we the Democrats and the Republicans. I don't want my kids living in that world. I want my kids knowing that any job is a black job if they want it to be. I don't want my kids thinking like, oh gosh, I hope somebody helps them give me an opportunity. I want my kids to sitting back like Jerry Buss at the Lakers saying, I wonder if I'm going to give somebody an opportunity today. So this is a mindset. This does not have to do with how much wealth you have. It does not have to do with how long you went to school. Sometimes going to school too long can limit your thinking. Sometimes having wealth can make you just into a bigger slave. LeBron James is worth damn near $1 billion. And it's unfortunate that he, as wealthy and powerful as he is, still had to ask Jerry Buss's permission for them to draft his son. And the world I dream of is a world where LeBron owns the team and he drafts his own son and ain't got to ask nobody for nothing. Because remember, Jerry Buss did not have to ask for anybody's permission to bring his children on board. Am I right or am I right? Because from what I understand, he got his whole damn family working up in that front office, and he didn't have to go ask LeBron for nothing. So that's a hierarchy, people. That is so LeBron has the black job, Jerry Buss has the white job. It's just LeBron's black job happens to pay a lot of money. His job is to be 6'8", 240 pounds with a 35-inch vertical. That's the black job. Jerry Buss's job was to sit back and raise a bunch of money and own a team so that he gets to make all the decisions. That's what a black job and a white job looks like. That's all I got to say. I'm getting out of here, guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to join us for our financial consciousness training that we do every single morning, it's a private Zoom. You can come in and just get your batteries charged for the day on what your economic plan is going to be. Just text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. The number's on the screen. Text morning to 87948. Also, this podcast is on Spotify. I have other podcasts on Spotify. One is called Dr. Boyce Daily Stock Market, where I give regular updates on the stock market. I let you know stocks that I like, stocks that I'm buying, things like that. And in addition to that, last but not least, I hope you will join us at the All Black National Convention. The All Black National Convention takes place in Chicago, Illinois this year, October 25th through the 27th. And that is where we solve our own problems. We work together with the best Black scientists, engineers, researchers, teachers, scholars, thinkers, medical doctors, attorneys, etc., and we solve our own problems. So if you are into that kind of thing and you want to be in a space where the energy is very, very positive, join us in Chicago. You can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. Brother Nuri Muhammad is our keynote speaker this year, along with Lamar Tyler, who is the Black millionaire maker. And we also have lots of therapists that are coming, lots of professionals from all different backgrounds, real estate experts, crypto experts, stock market investing experts. Constance Carter, who's a real estate genius, is going to be there. So we're going to have a lot of great people there. So I hope you'll join us. Just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. You can learn more. Have a good day, everybody. And my wife is probably, I got to go apologize to my wife now because I asked her for 10 more minutes and I took like 30 or 40. So let me go make it up to her and I'll talk to you guys soon. Love you. Peace.